Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays on Spaced Out Radio. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for our archives. Now broadcasting from our Mile High Radio Clubhouse on Spaced Out Saturdays with your host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, November 24th, Sunday, November 25th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. I hope you guys had a rockin' week, an awesome day, an awesome Thanksgiving, and an even better evening. I am your host, TessaTNT, and I am live tonight broadcasting from beautiful Fylth, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. You guys don't forget to tune into spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the Encounter Online, dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So tonight, I have a real treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight, we will be talking to and getting to know Mr. Ron Morehead. Ron Morehead is best known for the Sierra Sounds. Ron Morehead is an adventurous, researcher, author, and producer. He's been known for decades for his worldwide research in the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon. The Sierra Sounds are the only Bigfoot recordings that have been scientifically studied, time-tested, and accredited as being genuine. Ron has documented his personal interactions with these giant beings and produced his story on CD and his book, Voices in the Wilderness. Very few researchers of his caliber are brave enough to publicly consider the hundreds of reports that include the spooky action at distance, Einstein, and his new book, The Quantum Bigfoot. Ron goes above and beyond, combining decades of experience and tireless hours of research into the realm of quantum physics as it could pertain to Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Besides being the keynote speaker at many conventions, he has been featured on countless radio programs such as Coast to Coast, BBC TV, documentaries, and The Learning Channel. Hey Ron, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming on with us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, Tess. It's great to be here.
So,
exciting.
Yeah, we were talking about Thanksgiving. How'd your Thanksgiving go?
Went very well, thank you. Yeah, too much turkey and ham and all that stuff that goes with it. Pumpkin pie and pecan pie. And yeah, well, we'll be working that off for a few months.
Right? So many calories to deal with and the food coma that comes along with it. And I know this is generally your bedtime, but I'm so grateful that you're here with us and going to tough it out with us this evening.
Oh, it'll be great. Yeah, thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this field, and what attracted you to Bigfoot?
Sure. I was actually part of a hunting group 8 miles into the wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains. We had this camp, and these beings, I call them, started coming around the camp at night and making their sounds. And anyway, it started off actually with just the two Johnson brothers. I didn't go up the first trip when they heard this thing, and the first they thought it might have been a bear, but then they realized the sounds was not like a bear. And they're avid hunters. The camp had been there since the 50s, late 50s, and these guys are my senior. In fact, they're not passed away now, but anyway, they went outside after the commotion stopped and seen this huge 5-toed track in the mud. This was in 1971, and they came out and told the rest of us. I still didn't go up because I wasn't really part of the hunting group at that time, but one of the guys wouldn't go back up. He got scared off the mountains. There's 5 of us involved altogether, and ended up still being 5 because he stopped going up. It just frightened him too much. The sounds were just too intimidating. Very religious guy, and he just couldn't fit that into his giants are not supposed to be around anymore, and these things are huge. So anyway, he invited me to go back up with him because the guys were a day late coming back from their trip. And at that time, we didn't know if these things were aggressive. They sounded very aggressive on the tape that they ended up making, but didn't know if they were going to be eaten or if they were going to have to shoot their way out of that shelter or just what was going to happen. They just didn't know. None of us knew. I heard the story, and I wanted to get up there too. So anyway, that's what got me involved, and I started hunting then because that's what it was, a hunting camp, and it's very inaccessible. But, unfortunately, I think it all burned up this summer, the California fires. That's how I got started. None of us were looking for Bigfoot. Everybody says, well, what got you into Bigfoot research? Well, really, they got me into it because the Bigfoots did, because what are they? I had no idea that something like that existed, like a lot of people don't. So first thing I did, because I was involved in religious, I was in church, me and a couple of the other guys, and so I started looking through the Bible to see where giants came from, and I found out there's a lot of history of giants in our biblical texts, and then you look in the Greek text, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, and Hebrew mythology, and you got these stories about demigods, these aliens coming down and breeding human women. And that's exactly what the Bible says they were doing, too, the fallen angels. So anyway, that's where giants, I guess, came from, and somehow they've just got reclusive back in the forest or something, and so we don't see them like people used to do in the old days, I guess. But they're still around. I got to tell you, they're still around. I live in Washington now, Washington State, and there's quite a few sightings here in the Olympics, this Olympic mountain range. It's got me involved up here now. Well, it's kind of fun. It's been exciting, too. And it's been a long 47-year journey for me. I've been doing this now since I was 29 when it started, so I'm in my 70s now. But I still enjoy it. I still enjoy these interviews like this and the conferences I speak at. And it's just been a real unique experience for me. So that's how I got started. Did I finish that?
Yeah, and that's super awesome. And like you're saying, it wasn't really what you had heard from other people or whatnot that got you into it. It was them coming around and being curious of you guys and what you were doing around the campfire or in the camp that got you interested in this field.
Yeah, and they were taking our food. That's what they were arguing about, I guess you might say, because we didn't know if the argument was directed at us and they was going to, like I said, crash in at us or what, because we all had guns and we were ready to shoot our way out if we had to, but it didn't come to that, and their intimidating sounds kind of just mellowed out after a while. We kept going back, and they'd come in, and usually after dusk, after we got inside the shelter, and they'd start making their noises. And it wasn't until 1972 we invited a journalist in who heard about our story, and we let him into the camp area, and he started recording these things too. But he was looking for a hoax. He really thought somebody was pulling our leg up there, but I think he come to realize that no one was. And he wrote a book called Bigfoot, co-authored it with Ann Slate, 1976, I think it was. And this is after he had already given the sounds to I.E. Tybal, who actually checked out the Nixon tapes If you remember President Nixon? Does anybody remember President Nixon? I hear somebody whispering.
Yeah, my 3-year-old Lily came in.
Oh.
And she's whispering for me to make her something to eat. And I'm like, go ask your dad. Because Mommy's doing radio right now. They're super
Well, at least
cute.
that's a good age right there. They just getting through their gruesome twosomes.
Yeah. I have another name for it. I can't remember it right now. But yeah, it kind of goes beyond the 2s and into the realm of 4s and 5s.
Yeah, it does. I've got 4 children and a few grandchildren too.
And
so
6.
I heard that.
And 6, she said, which her brother is 6 years old. We have a realm between 3 years old to 19 years old, and we have 4 children as well. So, yeah, you don't really plan it that way, but it just seems to happen.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I've got 2 daughters in their 50s and 2 other children by a different marriage, and they're right at 28 and 30.
Yeah, they're definitely a blessing, and they teach you so much, that you wouldn't realize before.
Well, they're a lot of fun. You got to enjoy them, whatever they're doing, because they don't stay that way forever. That's for sure. Yeah. But what I was saying is that Al Berry was the investigative reporter that came in to the camp in '72, and he got some very clear vocalizations recorded on our cassette tape recorder, which he brought in. We all had cassettes. That's all that was available in those days. And he shopped it around trying to find someone that would tackle the sounds and give him some kind of an opinion on it, some professional. And that's the I.E. Tybal is the first person he went to, because they, like I say, checked out the Watergate tapes from Nixon. But they didn't have the time, or they wouldn't do it without a lot of money. But they did do a preliminary listen to it, and it was pretty positive, their feedback for that. But he finally found a Professor Curlin at the University of Wyoming, who did a year-long study on these sounds. And he assessed them and came out with a report and gave it at a conference in British Columbia at UBC in 1978. Yeah. And anyway, he established that these tapes were not manipulated in any way, that they were made at the time of the recordings. They weren't pre-recorded, re-recorded, or altered at different speeds, which that was what Al was getting accused of. Every time he let somebody hear them, he'd say, oh, that's just somebody playing sounds backwards and messing around with them. But he studied them just for that. He's an electrical engineer and written hundreds of papers. The guy is just amazing. He retired, though, now, because I'd like to, I'm trying to get hooked up with a bioacoustical engineer now just to do some more studies on it. But it's hard to get academia to tackle this subject. You say Bigfoot and they put it in the pool with the Loch Ness Monster. And not that that's wrong. I don't know what the Loch Ness Monster is, but it's all myth to them. And it's something that they just don't want to get a hold of. They lose credibility if they get a hold of something like this. But Professor Curlin did it anyway, and he took a little bit of heat for it. And just like Grover Krantz, who used to live here, he passed away years ago too. He used to live here in Sequim, where I live now, Sequim, Washington. He was a professor at the University of Washington, and he believed they existed, but he thought they were a remnant of the Gigantopithecus, which they found proof that those things existed a long, long time ago, and they thought they'd went extinct. Mm-hmm. But that's what gave him the incentive, I guess, to research this, because he thinks that basically they could be something like that came across a land bridge. And they might be. But in my studies and my research all over the world with this phenomenon, they're quite a bit more than that. They got some attributes that we're still trying to understand. Very interesting entities they are. And we can get to why I think they are later if you want to. But
yeah, for sure.
But that's kind of how it all began with me. I've been into Peru and Bolivia and looking at the enigmatic remains of aliens down there, actually, who were not human. I went down on 2 different expeditions with 2 different scientists on 2 different years, and they both came up with the same thing, of these elongated skulls that are down there in Paracas area mainly. And they're not human. They are part human, though. So we know hybrids are here, or have been here. They had a single parietal, which we have two parietals, one on each side of our skull, and they just had one single parietal, and the elongated skull. So the Incas were cradleboard in their youth, the royalty youth, trying to get the same attributes, whatever these things they wanted. We think that they are responsible for the megalithic structures that are down there. Some of these boulders that weigh over 100 ton were moved up on top of this 13,000-foot mountain, put together like a jigsaw puzzle with no mortar, and it's just phenomenal. What you see is inhuman as far as what we could do now. Very difficult. And that was pre-Inca culture that did that. So we think that's why the Incas were cradleboarding their youth. When I say cradleboard, they'd put, wrap their heads to make their heads elongated. But they didn't get more brain matter. These things had about 28% more brain matter than humans do. That's kind of interesting too. But we got the private museum down there to let us unwrap one that was mummified, still in the mummified position. It had been taken out of a tomb with its mother and father, we think. It was its mother and father, and there were three in there. And this little baby we unwrapped and documented everything. And it had a elongated skull too, and no parietal, or no dual parietal, just a single parietal bone. And then later on, they found actually a pregnant woman that had a baby in her womb that was dead, obviously, but the baby had elongated skull too. So we know it's natural. It wasn't something that, obviously, if it's in the womb, it had to be natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like they're wrapping it to shape the skull. It's actually a natural happening.
Right, especially not if it's still in the
For
womb.
sure. That'd be difficult. So where is this parietal bone located, like, compared to where ours is?
Well, the parietal is the skull, the top of the skull. We have the sagittal suture going right through the top of the middle of the skull. You've seen that in the babies and in skulls. We have two parietals, one on each side of the head. And it protects each lobe of the brain on each side of the head. But these things just had one single parietal without a sagittal suture. So that's very unique. And it's not human. So that's where it's at. And just a few other enigmas, too, associated with the skulls that were different than humans. However, the DNA we found for the mitochondrial DNA, which is the maternal side, was from over in Turkey area, in that area there above Siberia, or not Siberia, but Syria. Yeah, and so that's amazing right there, because you got a whole bunch of water between those two continents, and so how did that culture get across the water? But then you find these elongated skulls in Egyptians. Hieroglyphs, you see them pictured, and so there was several cultures that had these elongated skulls, which again contained more brain matter. So kind of leads you to think they did some of these things with something going on in their head. It wasn't just a bunch of slave labor.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, did they have, access to more than 10% of the brain? Like, we only have access to 10% of the brain. Being that they have more brain matter, do they have more access to a bigger percentage?
Well, they may have had the whole brain. I don't know to use. I don't know how they know that 10%. I've heard that for years, but I don't know how they know that we can only use 10%. I think we can use more, just learned how. But they probably did it through vibrational frequency, vibrational waves. I think that's how they moved things. That's how it's called. It's in quantum physics. Everything is a vibration, and that's what my second book is about, the quantum Bigfoot. It's about how I think a lot of the enigmas associated with Bigfoot might be related into quantum physics, and I get into that, and even Tesla said, Nikola Tesla, he said that, one man calls God, the other man calls quantum physics. So he put spirituality and quantum physics on the same plane, and I do too. I think they're synonymous. And Einstein said, science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind. Well, that's kind of interesting too. I think if you could say it today, you'd probably say spirituality, because religion seems to have gotten carried away in some of these churches that I've been around. No, I'm not speaking down on churches, but they're whatever they are, they're not all right. They all think they're right, though.
Yeah. They all think they have the, ultimate truth, when I believe that each of them have, like, a portion of it, and if we just all came together, we would have that full truth, but everybody's busy, being the better or whatnot, and we have the full truth, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to get into organized religion for me. I've kind of fallen away from that and find it within nature, because you just see it everywhere.
Tess, so many people I'm not in organized religion because there's just too much judgment going on with it and things that I don't agree with. Spirituality, though, we're all spiritual beings. We all have energy that never dies. Sometimes it feels like it's dying, when you get tired, but according to Stephen Hawking's, energy does not die. It has to continue. So it just changes form. And that's like, spirituality or religions would call that heaven. You're going to go to heaven when you die. Well, quantum physics says no, your energy transfers to something else. And I don't mean something else, but somewhere else. Now, what happens after that, even Einstein wouldn't speculate, but he knew that and believed that. So,
yeah. Well, I'm into the field of paranormal research and paranormal investigation, and there's so many things that we found, and it just gives me a sense of peace and ease that there is something, after this life, other than being buried and eaten by worms and whatnot. Like you said, there's that energy, and it does go on, and it there's that free agency as well. You can decide where you're going, what you're doing. So there's so many variations that could happen.
Well, everything at its minute level is energy, and it carries with it a vibrational frequency and a wave, and that's the string theory, really. And you get into that, and everything can be manipulated, because if you get in the right frequency, you can change things. You can change yourself if you can raise your frequency high enough. And that's the goal. What we should be trying to do as humans is get the frequency up. That's why I rarely get sick, and just because I try to keep my energy high and my vibrational level high. And when you can do that, you can ward off a lot of negative issues in yourself. And I read a book years ago when I was a young man called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. That kind of got me on this track, but I never related any of this stuff to Bigfoot until I started studying quantum physics. That takes it to another level. Because we've had some strange things happen to us. Over 40 some odd years of interviewing people and talking to people about this subject, and them coming to me every day. I got somebody, more than one somebody, coming to me wanting to know what I think about this, what I think about that, because this happened to them. Absolutely nothing surprises me in this field anymore. I've just gotten inundated with so many different stories. You just kind of have to see what you want to believe, but I think I'm just putting all the dots together, and that's what I've done with Quantum Bigfoot, is put the dots together to try to give people an idea of how that could happen scientifically. Alan Berry, the guy that did the study, or fostered the study of the sounds, who we took it to camp and recorded some of the sounds we'll hear tonight, he said, whatever you do, you got to stay with science. He had a master's degree in science. He was nobody's dummy for sure. He was a very smart guy. And we became friends sometime after that, because at first he was looking for who was tricking who. It just didn't add up there at the camp, how these things could happen. And every day he'd go out trying to find some explanation for it, not just the vocalizations, but the lights we would see and the sounds we could hear that could not find the source of them. And it's like a big tuning fork going over your head, and you look up, you can't see what's making the sound, but it's there. And we've seen what I thought was a UFO up there more than once, and just strange things. I was up there a couple of years. Well, I was up there this last summer before it burnt down, but 2 years ago I was up there, and we seen this light go by our tent. The camp was taken down actually in 2015. The Forestry Service found out about it, I think, through one of the other guys who used to go in there hunting a lot, and he would pack in with horses, and I'm not sure how they found out about it, but they did. Camp been there since the 50s, and they had to take it out. So they took 9 mule loads of stuff out, which been building up there because of, well, it's just a pristine area. I mean, you want to be there. It was beautiful. So I think the Johnsons were ready for the apocalypse or something up there. They were ready to hibernate if they had to. And but anyway, all that's gone. But the camp is still there. It's just the shelter's gone. And of course, we weren't using the shelter that much anymore the last few years because the trees kept growing in on us. There was a group of trees in a circular type area, and wrapped cable around it and put deadfall up on that, and then deadfall across the top, and put plastic over that, and then some brush over that, so it looked like a big beaver's nest, really. And our doorway was between 2 trees, and over the years, those trees just kept getting bigger and bigger and growing in and growing in. It used to be 5 of us could sleep in there, and then it got to where only 3 of us could sleep in there, and the first thing you didn't want to sleep in there, some rat fall down in your sleeping bag. You know? So started setting up a little tent outside anyway, and anyway, it's a lot of history there, a lot of memories for me, and a lot of good times and a lot of interesting, spooky times too.
Yeah, being in the field is amazing. Just all the different things that you experience and things that you don't even expect, like you're talking about, these frequencies. And my friend Dell is in the chat room. He's like, frequency. He keeps talking about frequencies. What does it all mean? Like, he has no clue what it means. But there are different frequencies.
A lot of people don't know what that means, and I try to explain that in layman's terms in my book, so people can understand it. And I relate it back to, well, I actually get into biblical scriptures too, which match quantum physics. And there's so many parallels that you won't believe it. So it doesn't get you back in church, but it certainly gets you thinking, well, maybe there's something to these ancient scriptures after all. Because I think in every myth that you think is a myth today, there was a core of reality to it somewhere in the past, and a core of truth where it started. Like you said earlier, the churches all have one thing that they start with, but it kind of evolves into their structure and a social thing instead of the spirituality that it's meant to be. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about ancient texts, and I think there's a core truth to a lot of it.
Yeah, and they say mythology, it's a myth, but I believe that there's a lot of truth to it. Like, it's just what was going on in the world at that time, but for us to look at it in this time and try to wrap our minds around it, well, that must just be a story somebody was telling. But I think there is a lot of truth behind it. Like, that was just what was going on in that day and age, and so many different gods and so many different beasts and other things that are in the world that aren't here today, or we just don't know about it. Like, there's so many creatures that we're still discovering today that we never realized were there. We can't cover all the facets of the earth until a certain date in time, but yeah, I mean, I take it as reality. It was just the reality of that time, and it's so very interesting.
It sure is. You get into that stuff, and it's really interesting, I think. I get wrapped up in it. I've been doing this, like I say, ever since I ran into these things when I was 29 years old. I've been involved in this subject, and I've spent a lot of money just traveling the world and looking at different enigmas that are supposedly related to beings like this in different countries, because just about every country has them. You've got the Yowie in Australia, you've got the the Yeren in China, you've got the Yeti in the Himalayas, and the wild man. You got just seems like every country's got some name for these things. I think there's several hundred names from different tribes from the Native Americans that they all believe in them. Just don't know of any that don't. So it's not a matter of me trying to convince somebody these things exist. I don't try to do that at all, even in my lectures and when I talk. I don't try to convince people. I try to, what I do is show them the facts. We do have these tapes. They have been shown to be authentic. We've had a cryptolinguist in 2008, Scott Nelson, and he's a two-time graduate of Defense Language Institute of the United States. He retired from the Navy as a cryptolinguist, and that's transcribing languages, and he got a hold of these in 2008 by accident, actually, and made a trip all the way out from Missouri just to interview me and Al Berry to find the context of sounds, and got the original recordings, a couple of them, and went back and made a statement after he studied for a while, transcribed the language. He said, these things have a language by the human definition of language. I got to throw that in there because the human definition of language means something. It's not like dolphins speaking, which they have a very complex communication system, but it's like these things have to have a vocal mechanism that's very similar to humans to make the sounds that they make. Because the sounds, that, according to Curlin, Professor Curlin, he showed where they can go above, they can make vowels like we do, and consonants like we do, and they can go below, which also suggests maybe they can communicate in infrasound, and they can go to ultrasound. So it's just phenomenal, their vocal mechanism, and it's way superior to ours. It also suggests that they can mimic just about any forest animal or even us if they want to. And I've heard a lot of people over the years say, I heard my dog's name being called, my dog wasn't even with me from the forest. And they'll hear their name being called sometimes. But what they do, and you'll hear later when you play some of these recordings I sent you, their chatter is very rapid. It's very similar to the chatter that Albert Ostman spoke about in his interview with John Green in the 50s. John Green wrote in his book, Apes Among Us, and he said they were, Albert Ostman is the guy, he supposedly got kidnapped up in British Columbia and was carried away in a sleeping bag and was held captive for 6 days by a family of Bigfoots, a male, a female, and two adolescents, a young male and a young female. And he escaped, and he goes into great detail of how he escaped. But it was pretty accredited as being genuine. And I researched that. I'm a pilot. I had my own airplane. I was flying up into Toby Inlet where he said he was, and I don't know, we just researched that very extensively to try to find the bowl that he said he was held in. We was going to go there and see if we could find some remnants of him ever being there, but never could find it. So. But that's just another story in itself. Anyway, he said they were chattering amongst themselves all the time. And he didn't know if he was there to be eaten or if he was there for breeding or just what they had in mind with him, because he didn't understand what they were saying at all. And I don't either. I've heard them chatter, but I have no idea what they're saying. Even the cryptolinguist who studied their sounds and said they have a language, he transcribed the language, but he doesn't translate the language. Can only tell you it's language by the human definition of language. That also means they have a morpheme stream, which is a group of words that make a cognizant sentence like we do, like I'm talking to you now. No other creature on this earth is supposed to have that, but these things do. That makes it pretty unique.
Yeah, and that's by our standards. Like, they're not supposed to by our standards, but who are we to really make the rules on that?
Well, I don't know what created them or how they got their sapience, because they are sapient beings, in my opinion, and like we are, and we're Homo sapiens, so we're supposed to be unique, and we are unique in one regard, but these things are unique too. Whatever they are, they're not like us. They're bigger, stronger, stealthy, very intuitive, and they got other attributes too that we're still trying to understand.
They're definitely amazing. Jason in the chat room was wondering, is Sasquatch a giant, or is a giant something else?
Well, I call them a giant because they're big. I guess your definition of giant. It's not a giant like a human giant. There's men that's 8 foot tall. That's they got a problem with their growth hormone, the pituitary gland. But these aren't that way at all. There's little ones that they get up to be. Well, we had a 9-inch track along with an 18-inch track we found in the snow up there. So, and we heard this little voice too, which suggests that they're breeding. They have young ones too. But they're all get big when they get older. I mean, I'm talking about big, not just 8 foot tall, but they can get bigger than that. I've had people tell me over the years they've seen King Kong, look like a 12 foot tall gorilla walking along the ridge, and I didn't tell people about this one trackway that we found up there, and it was 25 inches long. The track was 25 inches long, and we found 4 of them, and they were 13 feet apart. You have to do the math on that to see how big you think that thing was, but we're talking huge. How does something that big stay so concealed? How do they stop from being discovered by science? Well, there's an explanation for that, and that's what I get into in my book too. I think they've been given some attributes by whatever gave them their sapience, which I think is alien intervention into the genome of some type of a primate, probably some type of great ape, and that made them part human. That makes them whatever. We can manipulate DNA now and pretty much control things the way we want them to come out if we choose to. So I imagine an advanced intelligence could do that very easily. And that's what the flood was all about. You've heard about the flood. Well, just about everyone acknowledges that there was a worldwide flood at one time here, a long, long time ago. And I've seen remnants of that in Peru and Bolivia, where you go way up top of a mountain, you see things that were only available to sea level. So, there was a flood, a massive flood. It wasn't just a flood like a bunch of water coming down the road. This was something that disturbed the whole earth. And it was there, and it was caused to get rid of the giants that were here then, and the corruption that was going on in the human genome, because the angels, or I say angels, we'll call them aliens now, I will, instead of angels, but the Bible calls them fallen angels. And they left their state and they came down here, and they were supposed to just watch over humans, but then started breeding with humans, women, and creating their own species. And they were doing that trying to corrupt the human genome. And that's the reason for the flood. There was one family, his name's Noah, and his children who were not corrupted by any intervention into the genome of them. So therefore, they were saved, and they started the earth over again, with population. However, I got to say this. You find later on in the Bible where these Nephilim people, which were giants, were here again after the flood, 400 years after the flood. So how did they get here again? Well, there's several theories on that, and I go through those in my book too, how that could take place, and what seems to all of them make sense. It's just which one you want to choose, I guess, or maybe it's all of the above. But I know if aliens have a free will like we have a free will, well, they can. If they did it once, they can do it again. And I believe that probably aliens are here now. And I know UFOs are being seen quite regularly now in every parts of the world. And down in South America and in Mexico too, Central America, they're commonplace. People see them quite regularly down there. And, I think people see them here too. It's just that they're laughed out still, and people don't want to acknowledge it. They think, well, it's some kind of a satellite or something up there. And it might be. Maybe they're just mistaken, but I'm quite sure they're not all mistaken. If they're just one, they're out there.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of us are busy looking at our computers or our cell phones or whatnot, being on social media or watching TV. A lot of us aren't outside looking up anymore, and my mother passed when I was at a young age, so I spent a lot of time looking up at the sky and talking to her, and I take pictures of sunsets, sunrises, and the night sky because it is so beautiful to me, and I've accidentally caught UFO craft and seen them in my very own backyard, and like you were saying, a lot of people are kind of afraid of that judgment and ridicule, and so they're afraid to speak out. But I think it is more commonplace today than it has been in the past. It's pretty interesting.
I agree with you. It is getting to be commonplace. Even on the media, the movies that you see and the theaters and all, they're putting UFOs and aliens out there. Like, I think when they do come and make themselves known better, they'll be accepted, because it's just, we're being inundated with that stuff nowadays.
Yeah. They're trying to somewhat desensitize us to it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And even, the History Channel, the Blue Book, Operation Blue Book, which stopped, I think, in 69 or 67, something like that. The government had that going on because of the UFO craft that had been happening. So they've opened that Project Blue Book. It's not classified anymore. And History Channel is coming out with a whole series on the Area 51, the Project Blue Book, it's called. I was privileged about a week or two ago to go over to Seattle and see a preview, not a preview, but the actual first one of the series that they're coming out with. And it's based on the Blue Book and the facts, and it's good acting, good quality, well done. And that's going to be released in the public on the History Channel on the 8th of January this next year.
Nice.
So it's going to expose it even more, and that's talking about it like we're doing right now. That's even getting it out more. So I think we're in for some pretty interesting times ahead of us. I hope I'm around to see it all. But I'll tell you, even Jesus said, and it's not Sunday, and I'm trying. Well, maybe it is Sunday somewhere, but I'm not preaching nothing. But Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah. We just talked about what it was like in the days of Noah, because of the flood, because these giants were eating people. They were doing all kinds of bad things because of the intervention from aliens into the human genome. And Christ said, as it was in the days of Noah, so should it also be in the second coming. Well, bam, you got giants here now. You got UFOs fixing to inundate us. Well, you got the days of Noah here. And I think people should be alerted to that a little bit. And I'm happy to say what I think I know about it. And it's coming. Something's coming down the tubes. Because if they can offer you advanced knowledge, and they will, because they have it, they could say, here, let's give you this implant, and you'll live 1,000 years, and you won't ever be sick again. Chances are you'd take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, most likely.
I'd love not to be sick again. That'd be awesome.
Well, that's what they were doing back in the days of Noah. They were offering people advanced technology. That's where we got to start kickstarting in the stuff we know nowadays. You wonder how all that happened, don't you? Like, how'd they know what gunpowder was, or how'd the Chinese know how to do that? How'd all this stuff really just all of a sudden, it's like flipping a coin, just all of a sudden you went from the troglodytes into what we are now, Homo sapiens, and something happened and gave us this technology. Actually, the book of Enoch, which is not canonized in the Bible, but the book of Enoch, the 15th chapter, basically talks about the different fallen ones and the different technology that they gave to humans to have sex with the women. Isn't that scary?
Yeah. Step 1. Give her good compliments. I'm just kidding. Yeah, and there's so many questions going on. Dell was wondering if you could please talk more about the gene corruption, etc., in the time of Noah.
Uh-huh. Well, that's what they were doing. They did that to stop basically the Savior Jesus from coming and telling us what we're supposed to be. That's what he was here for, is to tell us what we've lost. And he was called the second Adam because the first Adam was given everything, dominion on earth and all of it. Well, the fallen ones were coming down, and they decided they wanted women because they were envious of man, actually, because they don't have what we have and on this earth. And so they wanted to corrupt the human genome so they could have the earth, and They want the Earth. It's a jewel, really. This Earth is a jewel in the galaxy, and maybe several galaxies. I don't know. I imagine there's all kinds of alien beings existing in the universe. I don't know how far away they come from, but it's an interesting thought. I think these people who think we're the only ones in the universe have got their head in the sand. And I was on a program last night, and the guy didn't believe in UFOs. He didn't believe in aliens. He didn't believe in anything because I haven't seen them. He says, unless I see them, I ain't gonna believe it. Well, that gets me into my quantum theory. It's not a theory. He said it was just a theory. Well, theories are in quantum mechanics are done with mathematics because you can't see them. It was invented about 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago. I say invented. They had to find out the answers to how things work because classical science, Newtonian physics, does not tell you that. It just tells you what you can see, and it's based on everything being material or physical. And there's more. There's a lot more than just what's material or physical. Somebody explain consciousness to me. Somebody tell me how telepathy works. Somebody tell me how far it is to the end of the universe. All those things, there's no answers to some of those stuff unless you get into quantum physics. And then it's where you can put the science behind some of these things that you may call them paranormal, but really it's just learning what they are and they become normal. Just learning how to use the attributes that I think we've been given as humans. What Christ tried to tell us, he tried to tell us how to get back to it. And the key to it all is love, really, and just caring for others instead of running out and shooting people. You gotta care for things and care for people and grow yourself. Get into meditation and into understanding how much further and how much more we have as humans, how far we got to go.
Yeah, and like you were saying, that higher energy or frequency, that higher light, and love is like, the highest of them all. And I always preach about building each other up, don't tear each other down, because this world is hard enough as it is, and we're all in this together, so we should basically be helping each other out, really.
So true, Tess, so true. Yeah, that's very wise. And you see so much bad going on, you wonder how these people think. I don't get it, because now that I think I've discovered what we're supposed to discover, I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to help people. And if I can, and I think if we could just all be that way, because we all got our karma to work out, because we all got our spirit and our energy that just continues on, so we got to do what's right. Anyway, I guess we got off the subject, didn't we? Kind of fun.
A little bit, but they're really interesting topics, and I love talking about and hearing about them. Kevin in the chat room was asking, what's the frequency?
Well, there's an array of frequencies. It's not a frequency, it's all the frequencies. Just look into energy and quantum physics, and there's some books out, very easy to read books about quantum physics, and you'll find out about vibrational waves and vibrational energy. If you get on the right frequency and can tune into that frequency of what that item is, everything is. I mean, even the table you're looking at, it's got a frequency. And because it's all at the most basic form, it's energy. And you don't think it is, but it is. And that's been proven, by the way. It's not just me sitting here saying all this. It's been established that that's true. And if you can tune into that frequency, you can move the table. And that's how Christ did his miracles, through those laws of quantum physics. Mm-hmm. And he said everything he's doing we can do, but we're not walking on water yet, so it tells me we got a ways to go.
Right.
Well, at least I haven't walked on water. I get wet every time I try it.
Me too. Dale was wondering, how would corrupting the gene pool get humans off the Earth? Because they'd be able to take over, right?
Yeah, it doesn't get them off the Earth. It makes them take over the Earth. They take over the Earth. If it was all corrupted, we wouldn't be who we are, 100% human. We were made in the image of God. These things, whatever image they're made in, is not the same image we are. So when it's corrupted, when you're corrupted with an alien genome of some type that changes your DNA, you're not totally human anymore. And that's what was happening in the days of Noah. That may not have answered his questions, but that's what they were trying to do, is they wanted the earth for themselves.
And I've heard of, like through the History Channel show Ancient Aliens, different species and such that, you know, basically the one that I'm speaking of now would be dinosaurs, and they had this higher predatory thing where they could take us out so easily. So there was that alien intervention, and you see it today as far as, you know, when they dig up the bones of the dinosaurs, there's this massive radiation going on with the bones because they were basically taken out by perhaps an atomic bomb. We're thinking meteorite or asteroid or whatnot. But they have to paint these bones with a lead paint to keep us from being radiated when we go to look at them. Have you heard anything about that as far as the dinosaurs being taken out so we could continue to inhabit and basically rule the world?
Well, I think they were taken out. You've seen the big hole in the Yucatan, I guess, when the meteor hit the Earth, and it blew the ash all around the Earth, and that's what started out the plants because they didn't get the sun. That's what killed the dinosaurs. So that's the story anyway that I've been told. And it makes a lot of sense when you see it from the air, that the crater down there under the water, it's under the water now, right in the Gulf down there, southern part of the Gulf of Mexico. And yeah, it was quite an event when that took place.
Would that explain the radiation within the dinosaur bones?
I don't know. I haven't heard that radiation in the dinosaur bones. I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, that was on the Ancient Aliens, and it really intrigued me because, you know, you see the bones and you expect the bones to be a white color, but they're this black color because they have painted them with this lead paint to keep the radiation from, you know, getting out and harming us. So it's very interesting. I had never heard that before I had seen it on this show, and so I was very intrigued by that.
Yeah, that is intriguing, unless the meteor itself had some type of a radiation in it, or if it was, like you say, some type of a war. Maybe it wasn't a meteor at all. Maybe it was type of a war bomb. Because I think there's been a lot of wars on this earth in ancient past.
Yeah, as well as with structures that you see blown apart and whatnot. There's high numbers of radiation and those as well. So it makes you wonder, you know, was this a natural catastrophe, or was this alien intervention and killing off certain things in order for us to be able to continue to inhabit the earth? It's pretty interesting, and it really does make you scratch your head and think, wow, well, was it really not this, and was it this?
Yeah, I would. I had not heard that before. I look into that.
We have 3 more minutes going on here, and Jason in the chat room was asking about the Nazca 3-fingered mummies. Were you able to see those when you had gone over there to that area?
No, I've flown over the Nazca. Is that what you said?
Yes.
I have not seen those mummies. I have not seen those, but I did see some skulls in the museum down in Nazca, and I've flown over in an airplane. I flew over the lines that are down there. Quite an interesting area. That whole area is interesting. It's like the cradle bed for the earth or something. There's some amazing things to see down there. But no, I had not seen the 3-finger mummies. But you know, Bigfoot, some of them, when they've got 6 toes instead of two rows of teeth. Some of the giants that they're finding the remains of. A lot of remains have been found of giants here on this North America, but they're all put away because it causes havoc in the science books and Darwinism and everything else, because it's just not supposed to be. But there's a guy named Jim Vieira who I know fairly well, and he's got a lot of information on giants in North America, newspaper clippings. He swears up and down the Smithsonian's got them, you know. They just lock them up. And I've been in the Lovelock Caves trying to get access to the giants that the Paiutes said they fought there, which were red-haired giants, hairy red-haired giants. They were cannibals. And I've been to Lovelock Caves 4 times in Nevada, Winnemucca, Nevada, right in that area. But they won't let you see any remains anymore. They say there are no giants there, but yet there's pictures of them. That I guess they don't want out, but they're out. I got a picture of a head of one, and they weren't just robust people; they were huge. But anyway, the Paiutes drove into this cave. That's what's called the Lovelock Cave. And supposedly smoked them out and killed them. But I think some of them probably got away.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we found that you got the Lovelock Caves, and you've got the Minaret Skull, which was in the Minaret of Sierra Nevada Mountains. I went in there with Al Berry one time on horseback because this Dr. Denton took a Boy Scout group in there, and the pack mule they had dug up the remains of a skull, or a skull, not the remains of a skull, but a skull, but very large, very human-like, and it looked like it walked upright. So he sent it off to UCLA, and that's where you lose it. You don't see it, you can't find it, they don't have any record of it anymore, and that was very credible. Then you've got the Martindale mummies, which is found in the Yosemite area. It was a female with a baby mummified into a cave. She was 7 foot tall in her skeletal body, and they think that her male counterpart would have been over 8 foot tall. But you got a lot of stuff going on that a lot of people just don't know about it. They turn a blind eye to it, suggesting the giants have been here all along. Just very reclusive.
I hate to interrupt. I got to scroll down here to our first break. So yeah, we're going to go to a first break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Hey, guess what? You can now get your brand new Spaced Out Radio swag at spacedoutradio.com. We've brought the store back with all new items for you to pick out and pick up for yourself, your family, or friends. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, we got it all. All you have to do is head to our website and click on Store. Choose what you want and it's shipped to you. The Spaced Out Radio store is right there for you. Come shop with us at spacedoutradio.com. Then we can own the night together.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com. If you're heading to Vancouver, make sure you stop by the official bar of Spaced Out Radio, the Moose Vancouver. It's the place to party in YVR. At the corner of Nelson and Granville, the Moose Vancouver is always up to speed with a kitchen staff that serves great food. All food on the menu, $6.95 to $8.95. There's a reason the Moose Vancouver is recognized as one of the hottest spots on the West Coast. Get your horns up for the Moose Vancouver.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT, on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to Spaced Out Weekend host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Hear the sound again, voices dancing in my head, smile.
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for joining Ron and myself tonight. And we're talking about Bigfoot, but we're talking about so many other things that go along with it, and all these different subjects that are so very interesting. So we have gotten a little off topic, but I'm loving every minute of it. Ron, welcome back. It's so great to have you tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, we are off topic, but in a way it's all, if we can understand more about who we are as humans, we might be able to understand more about what these creatures are we call Bigfoot.
I totally agree. And we left off talking about giants, and Rano piped in the chat room and was talking about Devil's Tower. And in SOR, we've been having this standoff. Is it a giant tree stump that was cut down by giants, or is it some sort of rock formation? I'm on Team Stump because to me it looks like a petrified wood stump. You could see, the bark on the outside that's been petrified, the lines through it, and it looks like roots going into the ground. Other people are like, no, it's a natural rock formation. But yeah, to me it looks like a tree stump that's been cut down by a giant, and there's different ones across the U.S. that you can go and check out, Devil's Tower being one.
Oh. Well, I don't know what to say about that. I guess I haven't paid that much attention to it. There's a stump somewhere. It looks like it cut down by a giant.
It's called Devil's Tower. I believe it's in Montana.
Okay. All right.
I'm not quite sure on the location. Man, I wish I had a picture I could send you right now, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, that would be, because I may have seen it. Speaking of Montana, though, there's quite a deal up there, the Montana Vortex, that people, if they haven't seen that, they should go there. It's it's quite an anomaly, what a vortex is. Well, I've been there a couple times, and my friend Joe Hauser owns it, and it's just an amazing place. It's the magnetic pull of the Earth is so different right there, and it actually bends the light. I believe that's what happens anyway, because you can see something that you think is one spot, but it's actually over here in a different spot. And he's got a platform there that you can stand on. It's perfectly level. Put one person on one end, one person on the other end of this 6-foot platform, and there'll be one size, and you switch around, and they'll be opposite. Yeah. And it's amazing. You don't know how that could work. It just tricks your eyes or something. But he's had a lot of Bigfoot reports there, a lot of UFO traffic out that mountain that's right across from there.
Yeah, my buddy Dan Shaw, the Vortex guy, he works up there now at the Montana Vortex, and he's been telling us a lot about it last time I had him on. But yeah, that's so interesting, and he has told us about the whole anomaly, switching sides, one being taller than the other, and sometimes one just keeps growing taller and taller, and it's just very interesting how that happens. I'm going to send you this picture.
What's his name?
Dan Shaw.
Dan Shaw?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you, I downloaded it. Man, I had this picture of what I call the tree stump, but I want to send that to you really quick so you can look at that and kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about there. And I think I'm going to have to send that to you on email because it's not letting me do that on Skype for some reason. It's not downloading. But let's see. So yeah, giants, and they're all over the place. They're not just in the United States as far as, finding bones and such. They're all over the world, really.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they are. I've been into, I spoke at the Darwin Museum of National Science in Moscow a few years ago, and they took me into Siberia, me and a couple of professors, and took us way back in the wilderness out of this little village, and just to this cave where they said this Yeti had been, their wild man, they call it, had been staying. And, went in there, and you could drive a truck into this cave. It was quite a thing to get to it. Anyway, found some tracks in there, but you don't know. When they take you to some place like that, you don't know. You can't say 100% that it's what it appears to be because you were taken there. So you don't know if somebody could have set it up or what. So anyway, it's I don't know what got me off on that, but it was my Siberian trip. But there's probably something there for sure. The shore people, they've came down from Mongolia, but they've got this village way out in the middle of nowhere, and they did a ceremony for us, and they offer the Yeti. They call it the wild man, I guess, there. And it was quite an interesting event. But that was memorable, because the Russians believe 100% that Bigfoot is real. I mean, even their scientists believe they're real. I'm acquainted with several of them over there. They've had a lot of sightings, a lot of information on it.
Do you find that other countries are more open to these certain things than we are?
Yes. Yes, they are. I think it's all suppressed here in the United States, just like the UFO phenomenon has been suppressed for all these years, since the 50s, since Eisenhower found out about it. That's how long it's been. And they've had these secret things going on, and they just don't want the people to know about it. It's controlling us, basically. They give you what they want you to hear and what they want you to know. And if they let out the word that the UFOs are here, aliens are here, well, they think panic's going to start, so they're all trying to protect us. But it's all out now, I think. It's coming out even more so in the next few years.
Yeah, and sometimes it really takes a slap or a punch in the face for somebody to be like, oh, okay, now I see it. I'm so open-minded, and I'm kind of in the realm of, I believe anything is possible because I've seen so many things that are impossible according to other people that I'm not going to discount anything until I can prove it wrong, really. And that doesn't mean I'm going to believe anything anybody tells me, but I'm going to check it out and do all the homework I can on it to come to a certain census on it.
Well, we all have what we think is our reality, but you can make your reality. There are alternate dimensions. There are different dimensions existing. Physics says that. We live in three-dimensional world. But according to quantum physics, there's several more dimensions out there. And again, that's what religions might call heaven. That's what we call dimensions. So there's all kinds of an infinite amount of issues going on that we just don't know about that's happening as we speak. There's probably people around us that their energy anyways around us, and when they materialize is when they bring their vibrational level down to where it's within our light frequency. We only see within a certain range, and that once you're out of that range you don't see anything there anymore, but things are still there. And if you get into, I encourage anybody that's got questions about what I'm talking about, get a book on quantum physics. And there's several of them out there now. I started off years ago with one called The Quantum Enigma, written by a couple of professors out of Santa Cruz, here in California. It's quite an interesting subject once you get into it. It's hard to get your head around it. In fact, you can't get your head around it because it gets into stuff that we can't comprehend with our three-dimensional paradigm we live in. We all have our parameters that we think is reality. And that's the problem, I think, with classical science nowadays, is they have their parameters, and they've been disciplined in those parameters, and you can't get out of them, or you lose your funding for your next project, you lose your tenure maybe, you lose credibility, funding, all kinds of stuff. So they just stay within their paradigm, stay within what their discipline taught them to, and they don't reach out like I think science should. And that's where quantum physics, that's where Einstein, Tesla, Bohr, all these physicists from years ago, that's why they got into it, because it answers all the questions. It's not limited like classical science is. That's Newtonian physics from 1687.
Yeah, and all these guys that you're talking about, Tesla and Einstein and such, like, they had so many different theories and such, it just, like, blows your mind, and I really look up to them, and I feel bad for them as well. Like Tesla, they totally killed his character and basically murdered his character, which totally ruined his life. He had all this stuff that he held on to until the day he died. And then when they finally were able to get into his room, he didn't have 80 or more crates of things that he had held on to. There was only like 3 left because somebody had come in and taken them all. And it's sad, but at the same time, like, these things are coming through now. It's just a way of being held down to the almighty dollar. That's what these people really care about. That's why this other fellow that was in competition with him was able to exceed and be accomplished, because it was all about making money. Tesla wanted us to have energy free to us because that's how it should be. But let's bow down to the almighty dollar and let's go this direction and totally kill Tesla's character and then steal all of his ideas once he's gone. But yeah, somebody was saying to just tell you that that's where the aliens landed in Close Encounter as far as the Devil's Tower. And I did send you a picture in email. I could try to do that in Skype as well. But if you look at it...
I'll have my email.
Yeah, it looks like a petrified tree stump, and it's so very, very interesting to look at and to kind of think about. Is this really a rock formation? Which there are several across the United States and other parts of the world that look the same. It looks like a tree, a giant tree that was cut down by a giant that's petrified, which we find petrified wood all over the place in my area, which is Colorado and New Mexico and whatnot. But to me, it looks like a petrified tree stump. To other people,
it's really petrified, or if that's just from
age,
water coming down the sides or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure a geologist could tell us though. It's either is it wood? It is wood. It's not dirt.
Mm-hmm.
This is wood. The tree is wood. It's a tree. Do you know?
I don't know. But I think somebody should test it and let us know, because in SOR, we're going through this whole thing. We have Team Stump, and other people are like Team Rock. So we're trying to figure out, is it a stump or is it a rock?
Well, it'd be easy to determine.
Yeah, if you just tested it.
Yeah.
So Gigi is asking... does Ron think these multi-generational hybrid beings are innocent bystanders, just like us on Earth, or are they evil and should be avoided at all costs?
Well, some are good and some are bad. Depends on what created them. Aliens have different agendas, and even the Bible says you will entertain angels unaware. Well, I think we have aliens among us quite regularly. And there's good ones and there's bad ones. And there's been a lot of people say these are bad. I think with the ones I encountered in this areas were not bad. At least they didn't eat us and didn't carry us away in a sleeping bag. They didn't crash in on us or nothing like that. In fact, they offered us gifts on occasion. So it's they're not all the same. So you just have to know who you are as a human and what rights you have as a human on this earth, and hold on to those, and you'll be okay wherever you are. That answer the question? And I think they're interdimensional. Some of them are. They're able to get out of our frequency. Basically, we only see, like I say, within a certain frequency. And when they can raise their vibrational level, somehow they can change from energy to mass to energy. And how they do that, I don't know. But I think it could have something to do with their vocal mechanism, because it's so superior to what we have. And I think sometimes I want to think that they've got more than 2 vocal cords. They've probably got several in order to do the sounds they make. There's times up there when we thought our camp was being tore apart. All the cans are being ripped out of the barrels that we pack in on mules, and things strung out over the mountainside. And you look out there later on when things calm down and nothing's changed, nothing's moved. And how they do that. They're hypnotizing us all. They're mind controlling us somehow in our minds, because we all witnessed it. You can sit there in this shelter and you think you hear a car door slamming outside, and there's no cars. We're 8 miles into the wilderness.
Right?
Come on, 8,400 feet in elevation, and there's nobody there except whatever these things are. So, and another one of the Johnsons said he heard a herd of horses coming down to our camp when it was daytime. He got back to camp a little earlier. We'd all been out walking, and he got there first, and he thought he heard a herd of horses coming down at us at the camp, at him at the camp. And it's just weird. Just weird things happen. You got these lights floating around different times, and 2 years ago when I was up there, I might have mentioned this earlier, we'd seen this elongated light. It's about 3 foot long, just come floating by our tent. And I mean, we watched it for probably a minute or maybe a minute and a half. It wasn't fast, it was just floating through the trees. Looked like a lightsaber from Star Wars. So I don't know what to think about that. What do you think about that? Where's he go with that? it's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some strange anomalies goes on, and the Johnsons had these orbs floating over their heads, following around the camp one night. And we came in the next day, my friend and I, and he was telling us about it. But what do you do with that? It was lighting up the whole camp, they said. Anyway, got off the subject. No, I guess I'm still on talking about Bigfoot, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, the different things that you see in relation to Bigfoot. A lot of people have witnessed Bigfoot and UFOs around the same time, so they're wondering, are they in cahoots together? Is this an interdimensional being? I think it's more of an Earth being, like something that dwells here on the Earth that has for centuries. Other people are thinking, you know, they're in cahoots with the aliens. They've seen them get on the spacecraft with aliens, and so they're thinking they're interdimensional. That's how they're able to elude us when we're trying to get pictures of them. That's why they're blurry, and, you know, there's so many different things that you could say about it. Like, we have ghosts, and when we get pictures of ghosts, generally they're blurry. Perhaps this is a picture of a Bigfoot ghost, you know? Like, there's so many different things that it could be. But I do believe that they are earthbound, you know, beings as far as they came from this earth. But at the same time, saying that, a lot of people think that we're not even from this earth, that we were implanted here by aliens. I mean, there's so many different directions we could go with this.
Well, my belief is we are hybrids, you know, but God made us that way from the troglodytes, the caveman. And these things, whatever they are, they were made the same way, except not by God. By God, I think, is the ultimate alien, if you want to get into that. He's energy. I say he. There's a conflict now in the Vatican about they don't want to, why the Bible calls it a he all the time. Why can't it be a she or an it? Well, what is it? And even Christ said, no man has seen God. And it's not a thing that you see. It's what's in all of us. It's the energy that surrounds all life form. And in my opinion, of course, I guess we'll all know someday, but...
Well, there's a scripture, we were talking about the Bible earlier, where it talks about we will create man in our image, he, she, we, them. And I think, you know, God kind of kept our Heavenly Mother out of the script, because look at how we disrespect and use his name in vain, and he's just protecting her from us using her name in vain as well. I believe there is a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother, but she's kind of kept out of text or script to protect her name, to protect her from the disrespect that we use when we do use God's name in vain. That's just my thought process, but I do believe that there is a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother, and the same thing as, you know, how we're fashioned, we're men and women, and there's so many other creations that they have created. But I do believe in a Heavenly Mother, but I do believe that God is a male, but there is also a Heavenly Mother. So there's a Heavenly Mother and a Heavenly Father. It's kind of confusing when you try to wrap your mind around it, but I do believe that there are two beings that we are made in their image.
Well, listen, I never heard that before. I don't think it's a male or a female. I think it's energy. And that's what I think we get. We're all part of a collective energy, and we're all supposed to be united as one. Kind of like birds. You've seen birds fly in a flock, and they all move in sync together, all turn at the same time. Fish will do the same thing when they're spooling in the water. They're not talking to each other. They're all collectively one. They're moving within their oneness, and we're all supposed to be one. And Jesus said, "I wish that all could be one with the Father as I am one with the Father." And that's also, God is not a man. That it goes on and on. So I think he's just trying to tell us how we can find out who we are as humans, how we were originally designed, and how much more we can do, because he was doing it. And he said, you can do it too. And yet we're not, so far we haven't been doing those things. I think we got a ways to go, like I said earlier. Aliens, I think some of them can teach us and will teach us. Maybe through the form of a Bigfoot. I don't know. Maybe that's what they were trying to do to us up there, teach us something. But we think we're the head of the food chain here, on this earth. But I'm not so sure we are. We've been given dominance on Earth, not dominance, dominion. Excuse me, wrong word. Dominion on Earth. That's why you can command these things to leave, and they will leave. If you know who you are as a human and have that belief in you, they'll sense that, and they read your energy. I'm sure of that. Me and Warren Johnson walked out of our shelter one time and we heard this thing yelling and chattering right outside, probably 30, 40 feet away from our shelter. And we thought we were getting kind of bold then. We knew they weren't after trying to hurt us or nothing. So we said, well, we shoot out that door right quick, doorway, we'll see it run off. It's kind of bright moonlit night. And we were walking probably 15 feet apart, headed up towards this tree where we thought this thing had to be behind. And we thought we're going to see this thing run off and get a glimpse of one. Well, nothing ran off. And all of a sudden, him and I both got frozen in our tracks. I don't mean from fear that we weren't afraid at that time. We just could not move forward. I brought this up to a scientist years later. He said, well, it has to be either pheromones or infrasound, but I don't want to hear about your fear. I said again, we weren't afraid. It wasn't fear. It just like hitting a wall that you can't see. Mm-hmm. And we had to go back and got back in the shelter and started mouthing off again like it was making fun of us. But it's I kind of related it to infrasound then, because infrasound does definitely affect humans. Pheromones are only supposed to work within the same species. So if these are shown to be part human, which I think that's going to come out this next year too, there's more and more stuff coming out like that it could have been pheromones. But something stopped us. And it happened to me once again when I was by myself out in the woods. I wasn't even thinking about Bigfoot up there. And I got stopped like that. And it just, they've got some abilities we just don't understand, some attributes I should call them. But I'm not so sure that we don't have the same thing. We just don't know how to use it.
Well, yeah, and like you were saying with the genomes and such, I'm sure that we have some in common, and, we have some equality there, but I kind of think that they're more advanced. Like, they stay in nature, but they are so stealthy, like, we can't even take a clear picture of them, really. And they're so intriguing and interesting, just the way that they are able to move around, and some people have interpersonal relationships with them as far as kind of being able to communicate and having them around their house or whatnot, and having some sort of relationship, but it is kind of spaced out as far as they don't get really, really close to them, because like you were saying earlier, they are very empathic, and they know what's going on. They kind of know the next step before you even know what you're going to do. And I kind of really like to get into these voice recordings that you've gotten of them, so they can get an idea of what you guys were hearing while you're in this camp and how it kind of stopped you in your tracks from moving forward and going on with what you had planned to do, but you really couldn't.
Mm-hmm. You want to play one?
Yeah, so the first one I believe that you sent was a rapid fire sequence.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's well, it's just the rapid chatter that we've heard several reports from over the years from different places, but these are the only ones I've ever known that are known to be recorded like this and studied. So they just talk very fast, and the cryptolinguist who studied these sounds later on, he had to slow them down to transcribe the language that's in there, and it is a complex language. So you go ahead and play that one and get it started.
Okay, here we go with the rapid fire sequence. That was awesome. Somebody said that sounds extra close to the microphone, but I actually have it in our audio clips where we have our commercials and intro and everything. So that was played from our audio for you guys to hear and not putting my mic up to it.
I didn't hear it.
I should have put my headphones on the mic so you could. But you know what that one is, right? The rapid fire sequence.
Yeah, I've heard it before, believe me.
So what exactly was that? That was just, were they communicating back and forth, or were they trying to communicate with you, or what exactly was going on there?
Well, I think I didn't get to hear it for sure, but I think that's, I got so many recordings of these, I think I just sent you 5.
I can play it again for you and put it on the mic real quick so you could hear it.
So what I'm thinking about, Tess, I think it's the male and a female arguing over the food. At the time, we didn't know if they were really showing aggressive or if they was talking about coming and eating us or what. But now that we've thought about it a little bit, I think they were arguing over the food. And the female won, by the way. I was told by a sound expert.
I could see that. And we've got a few other ones here. Do you want to go one by one, or should we space it out? How would you like to go about
whatever you want to do. Your listeners, the next one is the English one. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. English.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that one. It just it sounded like he was in... Go ahead and play it, and maybe I can explain it afterwards.
All right, I'm going to play it and put my headphones up so you can hear it.
Okay.
All right, here we go with Anguish. Let me mute my mics.
Yeah, you kind of wonder what he was.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You kind of wonder what he was doing. We didn't see him doing that. We just got it recorded. So he was, we just call it English because he sounded like he was, you heard the jet flying over above us, above him at the time. At least that's what was happening. I don't know. Maybe it kind of sounded like he was constipated or something to me. I just don't know.
Well, yeah, and it's really hard to tell what is actually going on there because, like you said, you didn't see it happening. You could just hear it, and you were recording it. So it's really hard to tell what was going on there with that clip.
Yeah, that was made by Alan Berry in 1972. It wasn't until 74 when I got a glimpse of one, and I was recording it at the time. And so that's the first time really we got to see what was making the noises, and that was kind of unique because it's they're very, very stealthy. They stay out of your sight as much as they can. They just don't want to have human exploitation of them, I think. And maybe there's another agenda they have that we just don't understand yet, don't know about. But they're out there, and there's some good ones and there's some bad ones. And a lot of people go out in the woods and never come back. And just don't go by yourself. I don't agree with that, to going by yourself like some people say they do. Because if you get a bad one, they might just decide you won't come back.
And Craig was wondering, how do you get all these recordings and Why are you the only one who is able to, on a consistent basis, to do so?
Well, it was in the 70s, early 70s, and we just happened to have them come into this camp where we think they habituated, where we habituated to for hunting. And we didn't show aggression towards them, and they did. It's not like we did this over years and years and years. We did it over a few years when they were coming in close, and they stopped coming in real close in 1976. And that's when we actually shot a bear. A Bigfoot was behind our shelter making some noises. At the same time, something was tearing up our camp up front. We thought, well, maybe it's the same thing. Maybe we just think they're tearing something up. But we thought we better take a look and see what's out there. And it was a bear. And we tried to run him off, but he went out and circled the camp and then came back and started doing the same thing again. So did that 3 times, and the third time went out there with our loaded guns, and he didn't scare off. He kind of stood up on his 2 legs and dropped down on his 4 legs and started walking towards us. So we shot him. And next day we skinned him and ate his hindquarters. And that's the last close-up encounters, real close-up, that we've had, except for me in 2011 when I was up there. I had something happen a little bit concerning to me, but again, I know who I am as a human, and they're not going to hurt me.
Right. Joe in the chat room was wondering, how far was the critter from the microphone?
Well, we don't know because we didn't see him, but they have such an amplitude, such a powerful lung capacity. He had to be 30 or 40 feet away, but it sounded like he's standing on there holding the mic, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now that microphone, right, that sequence you just heard was about 40 feet behind our shelter, taped to a little sibling tree, and he was behind a rock formation, Alberry thinks, or behind one of the big trees. There's some huge trees up there. So also I was told by a professor that I know that we have remnants in our makeup of like gorillas do. They can squeeze your arms down and squeeze these air sacs and really protrude a loud scream like the howler monkey or like some of these great apes can do. And these things may have that too and can throw their voice tremendously. So it could have been 40 feet away, it could have been 15 feet away, but it wasn't any closer than 15 feet, I'm sure.
And Shar was asking, did he say they ate him? No, they shot the bear that came in shortly after that and ended up skinning and eating the hindquarters of that. Not the Bigfoot, but the bear.
No, the bear. Right. Glad she straightened me up on that one.
Yeah. No, not the Bigfoot. They didn't eat the Bigfoot. That would be somewhat carnivorous because I do believe that they are related to us in a certain sense.
They are, I would believe. I think in a mitochondrial sense, yeah, the maternal side.
And the next one we had here was the samurai looped. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a loop. I because it's so short, I looped it for you, I think, twice or so. That's the time I saw one. It's not a good quality of recording, but I certainly don't apologize for that. We was lucky to get the tape recorders out and turn them on when these things were messing with us while we're outside the shelter, which was unusual. And I just had my little cassette recorder, and I seen this thing shooting down from behind me after it made that scream, that samurai cry. I say mad moneymaker, but he's that Finding Bigfoot show. He come up and heard those sounds before he started the BFRO.net, and he coined the sound samurai cry, and that's where actually Scott Nelson got a hold of the sounds. The cryptolinguist was through the BFRO.net because he had some of my sounds on there. Matt did. And he started the BFRO right after that. And I think he's used my sounds also at different times to sound blast, which I don't agree with at all. We don't know what these sounds represent. They may be a challenge. They may be looking for a mate. You don't know, so you don't want to sound blast these things until you know what they're trying to. Until you know what they're saying. And then I actually had one guy with sound blasting. He said he seen this thing sound like a truck coming through the trees at him, and it just scared the crap out of him. And
oh, wow.
He won't ever sound blast again.
I've tried that, doing paranormal investigation, and, the first time I tried it was at Prairie Grove Battlefield, and it was where the Civil War battle had happened, and so I pulled up Civil War sounds and I played it, and we did get a reaction. We had a spirit of a Civil War soldier run by the car and jump into the tree line. And my daughter Nova had seen him and got really freaked out, and she's like, can we go? Can we please go right now? Can we please go? And I was like, don't be afraid, we're all going to be ghosts someday. And she's like, I'm not afraid of what I saw. She was afraid of what she felt. Like, she could feel what he was feeling, and she felt the total anxiety he was feeling. Yeah, it can be very harsh and reckless on our part to do that. Like, it did work, but at the same time, we dredged up these old feelings that this person was feeling and caused some chaos and, fear and all these other things that I feel really bad about it, after it happened. I was like, I'm so sorry that I did that, and how can I make that right? But, it did work, but at the same time, it was not the effect that we were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I have my theory on ghosts, too. I think they're kind of stuck here. They have not got their vibrational frequency high enough to get out of this. They're stuck between dimensions, and they can't get back into ours, but they can't go any further till they raise their vibrational frequency. Because once you can raise it so high, and this pretty much has been proven, you can play a note on a piano. If you keep raising it high enough, so many octaves, it will turn into light. And it's hard to get your head around some of this quantum stuff, but it's all been established. And some people say, well, it's just a theory. Well, if it's established by mathematics and quantum theory, then it has to be established that it's not true by mathematical means. And so far, these theories that we talk about are theories. They can't be disproven unless they're disproven by mathematical means. And no one's been able to do that with some of these equations that these physicists come out with.
Yeah, and a lot of people believe that, some spirits are stuck here because of the tragedy that happened, how quickly their life was taken, and they don't realize what has happened to them, or that they are really dead, and so they're kind of stuck in this repeat of what has happened to them. But yeah, that really did make me feel guilty after I did that, and putting this spirit through this chaos. Like, he really did fear for his life. He was so afraid, and with the flare camera, I was pointing it at the tree line where they would go and hide when cannon or rifle fire was happening. They'd hide in this tree line to hide from, trying not to get killed. And yeah, it just really did make me feel guilty. But yeah, it's interesting how that does happen.
Well, you wonder how a lot of things happen. Of course, quantum physics says that time does not exist like we perceive it. Mm-hmm. That's hard to get your head around because we think there was yesterday. We're in our memories. We think there's going to be tomorrow. We live in the now. But and you get out of this space and this time that we're in, and it does not exist as we perceive it now. In fact, in my book, I talk about how scientists have shown if you travel at this 99.9% of the speed of light in space, and for 1 year, you come back and 227 years have passed on Earth. So
yeah, time for them is so different than it is for us.
And time travel, according to Stephen Hawking, is according to several physicists now, in the math of it all, they say it's possible. So it's just, it just takes time to get your head around all this stuff. It just works. It works in strange circles sometimes.
And Danny's in the chat room. He's like, I want to hear more Sasquatch sounds, please. So should we go on and play the Samurai?
Yeah, it's a quick one, but it's the night I got to see it, and that's what made the difference for me. Not a difference, but pretty phenomenal. That's what it was. Sound like a samurai.
Was that two different Bigfoot?
No, that was the same one. The cry and the sound. I had it looped twice, so you heard it twice. But he was behind me where I was sitting. Me and one other guy was in camp. We came in on horseback earlier that day, and it was just getting dark when we started hearing the limbs break and the rocks start popping, and that's kind of what they do. So we were kind of used to it, and we thought, okay, we're having some activity now. And then you hear the whooping back and forth. And did I send you any whooping sounds? Whistle, talk to us. Maybe that last one might be it.
Yeah, I have whistle and talk to us.
Yeah. Well, the whistle one is just they whistle through the vocal cavity, and not through their lips like we do. So if you want to play the whistle one, we get that one.
All right, so I'm going to mute myself, and that way it doesn't echo through because I have to put my headphones up so Ron can hear it. But this next one is called Whistle. And that was the whistle.
Yeah, I sent you a short one. I should have had one where we was whistling back at them. I should have sent you that one too, but it's the same thing. That when they whistle, it's just really pretty. It's a unique whistle.
And if you have anything on hand that you'd like to play, feel free to do that. It's totally up to you what you'd like to do.
Oh, well, I'm not set up for it right now. I got all kinds of sounds here, but I wanted to mention something else to you, speaking of their vocal cords and what they're able to do. There's a guy named Thinker Thunker. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he did an analysis on our sounds. And it's about a 20-minute segment, but it's very unique. You can look it up on Google it, Thinker Thunker Sierra Sounds. And he says, he gets really in-depth with this, but in one tone, they can create 5 octaves. And that's inhuman. You can't, no human can do that. And no animal that we know of can do that. I'm trying to get a bioacoustical engineer on that now to see if it's can be corroborated with a professional bioacoustical engineer. That's true. That should put it over the edge for science, but they just they can't get their head around these things being able to talk. That's the first step right there. Some of them are starting now. Maybe they have language. Maybe some, at least the ones we encountered, have a language. I don't know if they all do, but the ones we encountered have a language, a very complex language, and they're big, very big, and they do some things that we just don't understand. But they are out there. I believe they are interdimensional. That's why they're not being seen. They energize somewhere, somehow. And anyway, it's just something we're still trying to understand, how they do what they do. Again, I think they do a lot of it through their vocal mechanism, which has been somehow created in them. And they are biological when they're here, but if they can go interdimensional, and I believe they get in the 5th dimension and go out of our perception, how they transfer their mass to energy must be through vibrational frequencies. And that's just my little guess right there.
And Danny in the chat room was saying, not sold, but you've had these looked at by a professional linguist and other professionals, and it has been legitimized.
Right. That's correct.
So it's not just, I have this recording and this is what it is. It's actually been sent through different people, and it has been legitimized, right?
It had a year-long study at the University of Wyoming by Professor Arlen Curlin, and he legitimized it as far as it being created at the time of it. It wasn't pre-recorded, re-recorded, wasn't altered. It wasn't manufactured in any way. It was real. It goes below, above, and beyond what average human can do. And then that was way back in 1978. He gave it at a lecture in UBC, University of British Columbia, in 1978. And he gave his report there, and Anthropology of the Unknown. That came out in a book. His whole report's in a book called Man-Like Monsters on Trial, and it's by the UBC Press, and that was produced in 1980. And then you've got the cryptolinguist Scott Nelson, who transcribed the complex language, and again, he's a two-time graduate of Defense Language Institute, retired from the Navy as a cryptolinguist, transcribing language. So, yeah, it's awesome. We got these people behind it, and then if I can just get this third gun out there to shoot this smoking bullet or whatever you want to call it on that thinker thunker thing, that'd be phenomenal. Because if they can make 5 octaves in one tone, oh my gosh, that should put it over the edge for people. Because the sounds have been proven to be legitimate, so we know they're real. Because we knew they were real anyway. Now you got a PhD saying they're real. You got a cryptolinguist saying it's a language that only humans can make, generally, or at least it takes a human-type mechanism, at least, to make these sounds. The sounds have the morphine stream in them, which is a complex group of words which make a cognizant sentence. Again, if we can get a biophysical engineer to study these again with the current technology and corroborate what Thinker Thunker's saying, well, that's 3 strikes right there, and that ought to get all the academia on board. But again, they don't want to touch something that says Bigfoot or Sasquatch on it.
And GJ was asking in the chat room, what does Ron think about a collective intelligence with them that maybe could explain how they make and improve structures all over the world, or one may know us and tell a friend?
Yeah, well, I think we all have a collective consciousness if we can just deep into it. That's how we do telepathy. That's how I think they all can collectively know what the other one's doing. I had one at my house one time down in the San Joaquin Valley where I lived on my ranch. I was out irrigating, and something was following me. I heard this clicking sound like we'd had up at our camp, and that clicking sound, we heard it at our stove for a while, and then that clicking sound came up to the shelter, and then all of a sudden it was inside the shelter, and we shined our light on. There's 3 of us in camp that night, and there's nothing there. It just stopped immediately when you turn your light on, and you turn the light off and it started up again. Well, that same clicking sound was down at my house, followed me around in the field out there, and I kept looking. Well, am I stepping on something? What is this? And it was the same sound that I heard up at the camp just a few weeks later. What really made it strange is one of the guys up there with us, and I asked him a few years later, Bill, did you ever have anything happen down at the house? He said, yeah. He said, you remember that clicking sound we had up there? He said, I had that out of my house. So we both had it. It's like who knows what that means, but I've also had this big pounding on my house at night. And at nighttime, it just jar you. You think, well, who's there? You get up and look, and there's nothing around. I live on a ranch, and just you look, maybe a pine cone hit your roof or something, but no, that didn't happen. You look next morning trying to see what went on, and I've had it happen several times, really, and so has my daughter. A lot of people report that nowadays, that these things can follow you, but they're really not not physically, they're not following you. Somehow their energy is following you and manifesting this sound somehow. I don't know how to explain what they're doing, other than it has to fall into quantum science somehow.
And it makes me wonder if you showed it to an Aboriginal or some other tribe that uses these clicking sounds, if they could decipher it.
I don't know. Never tried that.
Joe was wondering, where in the Sierra were you?
Well, I can say this, it's between Yosemite and Lake Tahoe, the high country. You can't get in there in wintertime, it's too much snow. So that's about the best I can do, best I will do.
And Adnam was wondering, does Ron have any Native American lineage?
I do, a little bit of Cherokee in me. Yeah, a lot, but a little bit.
Me too.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And I know everybody says they're part Cherokee, according to some people. Everyone's part Cherokee, but there's a lot of us out there. Kevin,
I know
was
my
wondering...
grandmother.
go ahead.
Yeah, my grandmother. Well, I was going to say my grandmother's sister was kidnapped in a wagon train in the 1800s, and never saw her again. So there's stuff like that goes on. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted your question.
Oh, that's okay. I love what you were saying. Well, we have another question, but we also have to go to break here in about T-minus 6 seconds. So, you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Sit back, relax, grab a drink, and listen closely. Spaced Out Radio continues through the weekend. From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Weekend with Tessa Nicole Thomas.
I love that intro. Back into the show. But here we are with Ron Morehead. Ron, thanks so much for being with us tonight and sharing your audio clips. It's been amazing.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. Still is. We've got another hour to go.
Right? We got an hour to go, and this
by
hour.
the way, these can be. I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but I do have a website where you can get these on CD, the story and the sounds and everything. It's ronmorehead.com, and my books are available there. Voices in the Wilderness. It's my chronicle of 40 years doing this. And then I got the Quantum Bigfoot, which has just been released last year, and it's selling a lot of those. And then I got the 2 CDs. One is Al Berry's story with these aggressive sounds on it, and that's narrated by Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek The Next Generation. Then Volume 2 of the Bigfoot recordings is narrated by me, and it's my story. It's got the wood knocks, the whooping sounds, the samurai chatter. It's got me conversing with them back and forth, and it's well, I've had those out for a while now, but still sell them if anybody wants them. They're also all this is downloadable. You don't have to buy the hard copy. If you live in Australia or UK or something like that, you can download it from my website. A lot less money too.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how you sell it on your site, because I've heard several people saying they've had issues with Amazon and marking the price up too high, and they want their listeners and readers to have a fair price, so they sell it on their own website, which I really commend, because people do, try to take advantage as far as the almighty dollar. So that's awesome that you do sell it on your website. And you're saying you have audiobooks, or do your books come with CDs?
The Voices in the Wilderness comes with a CD. It comes with a CD, so when you get to the context of the sound I'm talking about, you can hear the sound. And I'm making that into an audiobook now. I just have been having a few little mic problems, but I'll have that out hopefully before the end of the year. And that'll be the audiobook of Voices in the Wilderness, and that's my chronicle of 40 years.
That's awesome.
And the CDs are just CDs. They're not DVDs, but they're CDs. And you can hear the story, and both about 40 minutes long, Volume 1 and Volume 2 both. And they come as a package if you want to buy them both. So it's pretty reasonable. And by the way, I do sell my books, just the books only, on Amazon. And they charge the same. They don't stock them, so they have to come through me. So I sell them at the same price. There's no markup through Amazon or nothing. So
Oh, that's good.
I just use them for advertising only.
And Joe is kind of complaining, okay, location can't be secret. It was 40 years ago, and saying it's between the Sierras and Tahoe Lake is like saying it's between Mexico and Canada. Can you give a more significant location, like a closer variation of where you were?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I will, but I can't, but I won't. I don't want
Right?
the place inundated. I don't want it inundated with people. And I've had people for years try to get me to take them up there and tell them where it's at, and I don't do it because it's first of all, it's still, well, it was until it's burnt pretty much now, I think. I flew over here a few weeks ago when I was down in California in a private plane, and not all of it burned up, the mountain there. They according to the Forestry Service, it did. At least the map I seen showed it did. But some of those trees are so big, I think it just burnt the underbrush up and didn't burn everything. So kind of anxious to get up there maybe this year and see just how bad it is or was, and hopefully I can have the time to get up there.
Yeah, and I've heard of different fires in the past from other people that have done Bigfoot research, and they have heard reports of, these helicopters flying out with nets with some sort of like burned bodies or whatnot in it, and they're not ever saying what it is, and they're thinking it's Bigfoot corpses, which they never tell us if it is or not. So I'm hoping, being that they're so elusive with us, that they would be intuitive and be able to get away from these fires before they perish in them, because that would just really be so sad.
Yeah, I was up there this last July. I went in on horseback with mules and stayed up there a week. And it was so smoky from the California fires. Where we were wasn't burning, but it was just smoky. You couldn't see anything. That's the first time, I think, in the 40-some-odd years I've been going up there that I didn't see a deer. I didn't see a bear. They knew what was coming. The fire was coming. And not too long after we left out and we got down, it was engulfed in fire. So they probably know something. They can sense those things. Of course, we can sense them. You can't hardly breathe, so
right.
Kind of bad, but it was fun anyway. But it was still non-eventful. Nothing happened at all.
Yeah, and a lot of times, people talk about how their animals sense paranormal things before they happen, or they sense different natural destruction and such before it happens. So I'm hoping that they did. And like you said, there were no deer or other animals there, so I'm sure they got out before it was too late.
Well, we didn't see any. I don't know if they weren't there, but we did. It's very unusual you don't see something up there. There's a lot of bear, a lot of deer generally, but this year didn't see a thing. And I assumed that they knew the fire was coming, and they just working their way towards heading east or something, get away from the fire.
Yeah, for sure. And this hour, the third hour, is when I like to open it up to our listeners, where you can call in with your questions or comments, and I'll give you that number. It's 1-970-335-9596, 970-335-9596. And Kevin in the chat room was asking, Ron, you have had so many encounters. There's obviously a connection that they have with you. Do you continue to go out to further your research?
I try to. I've been so busy with conferences and just doing what I do. The Olympics has got a lot of accounts of these things, and there's a lot of areas here that I need to get into that people have told me about. the encounters in the Sierra Nevada mountains are still going on up there, or at least except for this last year. But the fire may have stopped it. I don't know. I'm 76 years old now. I'm still pretty good shape, but I did have a tumor taken off my brain last year, right after an international conference, and then left my balance issues. So for the last year, I really haven't. I can't walk across the log on a river anymore, or I'll fall in the water. It's affected my balance a little bit, but that's getting better. It just takes a little bit for your brain to, the neurons to work around to the other side to teach things that you thought you knew automatically, but you learn when you're 2 years old, and it affects you a little bit. So it slowed me down a little bit, but it's not going to be there forever. Things are getting better. I eat well. I got a very good wife who takes good care of me as far as nutrition goes, and beats me when I don't get out and do my exercises. So I'm working back the strength, because once I had that operation, I was down for a month, and I mean, when you get down for a month, you lose a lot of your strength. So it takes a little bit to build it back. So I've been going to the YMCA and swimming and doing stuff like that. So things are getting better.
Yeah, swimming
a lot
is
better.
such good exercise, and it's easier on your body as far as keeping your buoyancy, and you're not having to uphold that weight as much, but you do work your muscles more than you realize, and that's a good way to come back to yourself as far as your whole body goes.
It's true, yeah. Well, I'm a scuba diver too. I've spent a lot of time in the ocean down in Mexico and different places, in Alaska even, and so that kind of knocked me out of that for a while. It humbles you a little bit when you realize, because nothing's ever been wrong with me before. I mean, I shouldn't say that, it sounds bad, but I've been very healthy all my life. Been very active all my life, been climbing the mountains a lot, doing everything I want to do, I've done. And then something like this hits you, and it just makes you step back a little bit and think how things can go if you're not careful. Yeah. And I got to say this right up front. They think that the tumor that was hooked to my cerebellum was caused by a cell phone. I held on my ear too much, so I want to caution people about that, because that's something new they're coming out with. Just keep the cell phones away from you as much as you can.
Yeah, use your earbuds or your headphones or whatnot.
Something, I don't know, but that's what they're saying now, that that could be the cause of these tumors, because there's been a lot of people coming up with them nowadays, and they think it may be due to the cell phone, because they said this has been working on me 5 to 10 years, and I was having these little dizzy spells off and on. You know enough about, we can be talking about this stuff where it lowers my vibrational frequency.
Yeah, let's keep it positive and upbeat.
Let's get back into Bigfoot.
Let's not put any energy into that Klingon.
Well, I think understanding again who you are as a human being will help you understand what you might be dealing with when you're out in the woods with these creatures.
Yeah, and you're more powerful than these things.
Well, not physically, but we have within us something very special. We're made in the image of God. And that's very good. That's the energy we have within us. And we all are collectively one. That's how telepathy works. That's how all this stuff works. And, let's just get a book and start reading about physics. And it's not above your head. It's not above anybody's head. You can read it and understand what I'm talking about.
Well, Shar was asking, did you say you saw one of the Bigfoot that you taped?
Yes. That samurai cry, that's when I saw this thing. It screamed out and ran down to the other two, the adolescent and the mother, we think, down below by the creek. Yeah. And my daughter, Rhonda, has seen them 3 times.
That's awesome.
And I think it has something to do with a lot of young ladies, so you got to watch out. I would... especially if they're having their monthly or something like that. It seems like that's when these things would show themselves to Rhonda, and I just...
I have heard different stories about how they are attracted to that, and that's very interesting. I think it's just
this young one, what she saw this one time, she was having her cycle, and it was pretty close sighting. Her and I were the only ones up there, and she looked and seen this. And she said it looked like a big, tall, black basketball player. How she describes it, with broad shoulders, very broad shoulders. And next morning, because this was right at dusk, the evening time, when she saw it, and I didn't get turned around in time. This thing just juggled in behind the trees right quick. But I went over there next morning and stood there and measured a little over 7 foot tall.
Wow.
And she said it appeared to be young because it wasn't buffed out like she reads about these things being.
Yeah, it's more lanky or whatnot.
Yeah, a little lanky, but broad.
And we like to keep it kind of light and happy and fun here. And Adnam comes in here occasionally and likes to ask our guests, and he just asked you, Ron, how many gnomes fit in your pocket?
How many what?
Gnomes fit in your pocket.
Gnomes?
If you were to make a guesstimate.
Well, I don't know how to answer that.
Okay, let's see. We have other questions here. Could being close to an interdimensional being like these Bigfoot have caused this brain tumor? Joe asks.
No, I don't think so, no.
Yeah, we're thinking cell phones.
I don't even like to talk about that because it's not a positive thing, and it has humbled me a little bit, kept me out of the woods. When I went up there this last summer, I rode a horse, had to ride a horse. I couldn't walk up there. It's just too steep. It's very imposing, very imposing country, but it's beautiful at the same time.
Kevin's asking, will you be passing down your knowledge base to an assistant or a replacement?
Well, my knowledge base is pretty much out there. Anybody can pick it up. My daughter, Rhonda, of course, she's got her own stuff going on in Oregon. But really, it's in my books, what I know, what I think I know. There's things I know and there's things I think I know. But there's also another person doing a biography on me, a video, and then I've also been approached by a couple of different publishing companies for doing some movie stuff. So we'll see if all that comes about.
So what do you think about the flat Bigfoot theory?
You mean the metatarsal break, or when you say flat Bigfoot? The ones we found tracks of up there were flat-footed.
I think it's how they can kind of flatten themselves to hide.
I don't know about the hiding part, but they walk different. If you notice the Patterson Gimlin film, it walks different. And they kind of walk one foot in front of the other, too. So flat-footedness, again, they're not all the same. And unfortunately, a lot of people think there's just something out there, but there's, I think, more than one kind. And some can do things that others can't do, in my opinion.
Danny was saying, flat Bigfoot theory, they are max 3/8 of an inch. I don't know.
They are max. What's it mean by that?
As far as the way that they can kind of compress themselves or whatnot to 3/8 of an inch to be able to hide. I'm not sure. I have only recently heard of this flat Bigfoot theory by being in these chat rooms and hearing these people talk about it. I've never thought about it before, but they're talking about how they can basically compress themselves to hide behind trees or other things where you can't see or find them at a certain point.
I'll tell you what I did get a report on just a few weeks ago from a guy not too far from where our camp is, as where the crow flies anyway. He's a hunter, been hunting for years, and been having some encounters, but this time he's seen a Bigfoot. But he said he's seen it come out from behind this 2-foot tree, but when it got out, it had 4-foot wide shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So...
So how did that happen? That's interesting.
Well, here you got it. Here you want me to get you the bottom line, what some people think and what could be true.
Mm-hmm.
If they are interdimensional, they require energy to go in and out of dimensions, to change their mass to energy and back and forth. And a lot of people, some people say, not a lot of people, that they actually energize inside trees, and because they can go interdimensional, they're able to do that. So when he told me that, he said that just doesn't make sense. And this guy's a firefighter. He's really was sincere. Mm-hmm. How this thing did that, I don't know, but he also saw a UFO at the same time, and he's a pretty sincere family man. He really didn't. I had a hard time pulling this out of him because he didn't want to talk about it that much. Not the screwy stuff like I just said, but it happened to him.
Yeah, and you're saying he was behind a 2-foot tree, but he was actually 4 foot in diameter. And how did that happen?
How does that happen? Yeah.
And Joe was saying the flat Bigfoot theory states that you can't take a picture of a Bigfoot because when you try, he turns 90 degrees and you can't see him anymore.
Oh, I don't know. Don't know about that. I'll tell you what, though, there's very little, if anything, that would surprise me in this field. I've heard so many things. It's amazing, all the stories you hear. But I've heard about them cloaking. I've heard about a lot of people talk about how they're following footprints, and all of a sudden they just stop. They don't go anywhere. There are people on the beach where it's not the tide, but they just stop. And I didn't know what to think about that until it happened to me. My daughter seen one. We found the prints. These prints went way down in the ground, very heavy, whatever it was, bipedal, and all of a sudden they just stopped. And I looked around. Could have gone up in a tree? No. Could have went up there. Could have jumped to a boulder. No boulders around. Where'd the other tracks go? Mm-hmm. Well, my theory is they are interdimensional. At least this one was.
Yeah, and I've heard people like tracking them in the snow, and then like you said, the tracks stop and they're looking around and they're like, what the heck happened? And then they look up about 20 or 30 feet ahead and they see this Bigfoot up by the stream or river. It's like he was able to jump that distance.
They can jump. A highway patrolman told me one time he seen one jump 30 feet.
Yeah, and that's about 20, 30 feet is what this other person was telling me. So
well, actually,
that's pretty interesting.
I jumped 21 feet when I was in high school track. So that's really not a big deal. But he was jumping from boulder to boulder, this patrolman saw. And I get these reports from professional people. I had a deputy come to me one time, and him and another deputy was following these tracks in the snow, and right behind where I used to live there in California, Mariposa, close to Yosemite, and he says they just couldn't follow it anymore. The snow got too deep. But I'm saying all that because professional people see this all the time, but they can't come forth because of their position, public service.
Could diminish
highway
them.
Patrolmen, forestry service workers, deputies, yeah. There's a local deputy, well, he's not a deputy anymore. Once they get off the force, they'll talk about it. And this young man, he's on the force for 15 years, and he had one go right in front of him in his car, his squad car, and at this place here in the Olympics. And he'll talk about it, but there's other strange things that he talks about too. That's now he's discovering since he got into it. So after he's seen that thing, he knows they exist, but there's more to them than just a flesh and blood creature. They're not just flesh and blood. They are flesh and blood, but they're not just flesh and blood. And you got to wonder, Edgar Mitchell, he's the astronaut who passed away. He said it takes classical and quantum sciences together to have clear perception. Mm-hmm. So I just encourage anybody to get into something outside of their paradigm, which is Newtonian physics. There's more going on. You just don't see it, but it's there.
That's awesome. And I'd love it if you could send me a list of books that you have read that I could look into to broaden my horizons, because I really do love to do that. And Joe is asking, when was your last sighting and or recording?
Recording, I don't really even try to record much anymore. My last sighting, something unusual as far as a Bigfoot goes, the only time I've seen one was 74 when that samurai cry went out. That's the only time I saw one. That wasn't a close view. It's just something huge, big, and very, very fast, making those noises. But what happened last 2016 when I was at our camp is I told you about this light that went by. It seems to be associated with these strange lights and UFOs and things like that. These things there's a connection of some kind. I don't know what the connection is, but I got my theories, but who knows? But that elongated light that went by is kind of disturbing. I never saw anything quite like that one before, and I don't know where to put that in my strange book of things. Didn't know if it was coming up the tent or where we were, because it was an open tent, real nice night, just waltzing through the trees like it was a person or something, but it was like a lightsaber.
That's amazing. There was actually pictures taken during the fire in California where you see this, like you're saying, this lightsaber sort of thing shooting down into this area, and people are talking about directional energy weapons and such, and it's just pretty sad and scary, like how bad these fires have gotten and how many people have perished. But it does make you wonder, like, what exactly is going on, and you haven't heard anything about, oh, was this guy starting a fire or this happened. They were at first calling it the campfire, and then you hear Paradise Fire and other things, so I'm wondering if it happened or started by a campfire, but then it spread so far out. Like, I know embers can fly and catch fires, so on and so forth, but so many different and weird things happening with this area. But it is very sad.
It is. California's got some beautiful country. The state itself is kind of messed up with its bureaucracies. That's why I moved out.
Yeah.
I was one of their better taxpayers, too, but I wasn't going to support it anymore. Needed to. So, I moved to Washington, and a lot of Bigfoot stuff up here. I still go down there because I still got family down there, and I know a lot of people, and I still want to go up to our camp when I can. But you have to go in, even if you're in pretty good shape, you can walk in, but you got to be in real good shape if you're going to really do it right, or take a horse. Mm-hmm. And so I sold my horses after I brought them all the way up here. I go down there and rent horses, so that didn't make any sense to me. So,
yeah, it's a lot cheaper to rent them, then you don't have to feed them and do the care and uptake and whatnot.
Yeah, my ranch, I had 64 acres, so I was able to keep my horses, so they're okay without too much trouble. Just you can leave for a week or two and not worry about them. But up here, when I moved up here, I bought this place. It's only an acre and a half, so couldn't really keep them here very well. So I had to farm them out, and I don't like that. You got to have horses. Anything is made for its use, and an airplane is made to fly, a horse is made to ride, or what have you. I never thought of it as a pet, a horse. So. Anyway,
we have one more recording, and it's the Talk to Us recording.
Oh yeah.
Would you like to give us a preemptive on that?
Oh, this is the same night when the Samurai Cry went on. It was, if it's the one I'm thinking about, Talk to Us, is when we first started hearing them chattering after they'd made their whoops. And go ahead and play it. Maybe I can say it better after I hear it again.
All right. I'm going to play the Talk to Us clip.
You're trying to talk to us.
Yeah. That was short. I cut that off. I should give you some longer ones.
Right. I can play it again if you like.
No, there was more to it. I just didn't get it all to you, I guess. They were asking me something. I don't know what it was. I wish I knew. But it was definitely a question that came out of that the whole evening. And they were having fun with us, I think. Because by the way, these things will toy with you. Mm-hmm. I think we think we're smarter than them. And when we're out in the woods, believe me, they're the King Kong out there. And they're more intuitive than anybody wants to give them credit for. And but these things are become kind of friendly in a way with us up there, but they still wouldn't come out and really boldly show themselves. So what they were doing that night, I don't know, but they were talking, and the cryptolinguist says that it sounds like they slowed their vocal range down to maybe possibly something we could understand. Instead of the rapid chatter, they were slowing it down, and that's what he says. And because I always wondered, because those sounds on 74 that you just played a little piece of there were so different than the aggressive sounds from 72 that Alberti recorded, and we all recorded them then too. I had to wonder if it was the same family group or if it was something else, and he said no, it's the same vocal mechanism did both the sounds from 72 and then 74. It's interesting. They were trying to communicate something to us, and don't know what, but maybe someday I'll know. A lot of people say, oh, I know what they were saying to you, I can understand them.
Mm-hmm.
But they all tell me something different, so how do you know which one to believe?
Right. So what do you think about the Bigfoot on our continent and others found in different parts of the world? Do you think they're related as far as Yeti and these other things? I
think they're related. Mitochondrial, they are for the maternal side. The nuclear DNA, the male counterpart, is probably could be different aliens, different something. Some of them could be a remnant from the age-old past. Have been here for eons before we were, maybe. I don't know. Some things you just don't know. I been doing this probably as long as anybody and had more encounters than anybody, but that I know of anyway, and been fortunate enough to have these sounds analyzed. And I still don't know the answer, and there are no experts in this field. There's people that know a little bit more than others, and there's people that think they know a lot more than others, and I'm neither one of those. I just know what I've shared with you, and maybe a little bit more. I got theories, but they're all theories. You don't know. I've connected dots from all over the world and what these things could be, and my summation is that they are hybrids, different ones from different types of species. I've came here on Earth, and I've probably invaded the genome of different primates, and some are good and some are bad. Some have good intentions and some are not good.
Well, yeah, and it's just like with aliens. Like, there's so many different species out there. Some are good and have our best interest at hand, but others are just looking for our demise. And I think Bigfoot really is just trying to survive, which they've been doing for eons and centuries, and they're really good at what they do, because we haven't caught one yet. And we're having issues with finding bones. Do they bury their own? Is there a certain thing that they do with them? What have you found in the field as far as...
the Native American lore says they bury their own. They take care of their own. There are also, the Native American lore says they live in two worlds. So you got to wonder what that means. It means they're in the physical world, and they're also in the spirit world, which means they're interdimensional. They also say they live in trees. There's another account. They live in trees. A lot of people say they came out of the trees. Well, they didn't just come from behind the tree. They came out of the tree and materialized outside. It takes energy. A lot of times our batteries will go dead up there. Cryptolinguists, he'd go up there with a pocket full of batteries, enough to last for a week, and they'd be dead. So there's something going on with energy in these things, and I think they require energy.
And that's interesting because I find that in the paranormal field as well. You'll have all your batteries charged up and whatnot, and then you go on an investigation. When it's a really active place, your batteries are just drained. Like, it was just at 100%, and then it's gone, and you're like, what the heck is happening? So I have these backup, batteries, because you can't just always plug into the wall. You have to have a backup that you can carry on you so you can continue to walk around and do your thing. But it's really interesting how they do and are able to drain that, and that kind of gives more of a scope as far as the interdimensional thing.
Yeah, in 2011, I went up there with Scott Nelson. We went up 3 times that summer. He took his whole summer. We'd go up there for a week at a time, come out and resupply, and we was in good shape, so we was walking. And I think one time we took a horse in, not sure, but anyway, the fourth, he had to go back to his teaching job in Missouri, and nothing had happened while he was there all summer long. Nothing took place that you could really put your finger on and say that was a Bigfoot. Things happen, but you can't just assume that things you don't understand is a Bigfoot. It has to be some corroboration with it. A sighting, prints, sounds, something. And nothing happened. So I wanted to go back after he left and find out if they were around or not, because nothing happened. And I had this guy who was going to go up there with me. He was one of the sons of another gentleman that don't go up there anymore. And he backed out the last minute. So I just went up by myself, which really is a no-no. Because you can get hurt up there, whether it's a Bigfoot or not. You can get hurt by a lot of things. I got a 52-inch hat band from a rattlesnake.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And there's a lot of bear. Not that the bear are harmful or not, but you get between a sow and a cub and you can be in trouble. So a lot of things can happen besides just the Bigfoot awareness there. I got up there in 2011 by myself, the 4th trip I'd made in that summer, late summer, and set up the little tent. Mosquitoes were horrible. I said, I'm going to get in the tent and read a book. So I got inside and wham, right outside the tent. It sounded like at the time I thought it was just a huge tree knock, which they do. And I thought, well, that's one of them. That's what they do. And I sit there for a minute, and I went on outside the tent, and a few minutes later, and started talking to what it was. I asked them to come in. Now that I'm by myself, nothing afraid of. I'm not going to shoot. I didn't even have a high-powered weapon. I had a little pea shooter in case a bear got after me. Something was birdshot in it. But I don't have any intentions of shooting at them anyway. Anyway, nothing happened. I kept talking. The mosquitoes were so bad. So finally I went back in and it started getting dark, because that's not where you want to be when one of these things are around by yourself. You just don't want to be. And I checked my tape recorder. Everything's working right. And laying there, 10 o'clock that night, chatter went on. There's a Bigfoot, a couple of them, something chattering down there, about 100 feet away, 100 yards maybe. And something hit one of those old barrels we had up there from our food that we had in there. And I heard this tromping 2 feet, bipedal walking around, maybe 15 feet away from my tent. And I started talking to her. I said, I told you not to come back later like this and do this, but they were, or whatever it was. And I think it was looking for food now that I think about it, because I didn't leave anything out. I didn't even start a fire that night because it was so mosquito infested, which is unusual in and of itself, and not usually that many bother you. But whatever it was, came up by the tent. I heard it stood right there breathing, and all of a sudden it was just not there. But I turned my tape recorder on, it wouldn't work. Battery was dead. Earlier that evening, after that first took place, I had put a brand new lithium battery in there, and it checked out great. It didn't work at 10 o'clock that night. And I lay there, and needless to say, I didn't get a lot of sleep. But at 4 o'clock that morning, I heard this electrical, metallic type sound right outside my tent, within a couple feet. Don't know what to think about that. I just know that that's the last thing I heard, and that was at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then as soon as daylight came, I put the tent away and left. My answer had been answered. They're still around. That was in 2011. That was the last thing I wrote about in my book, Voices in the Wilderness. Mm-hmm. And that was I think I produced that in 2012. Yeah, put it out.
Michael in the chat room was asking, Ron, what Indians that have heard the recordings, what do they think of them? Have you shown them to natives?
Yeah. In fact, I know the chief of the Miwok tribe. I knew him. yeah, they invited me to Sweat Lodge to try to find out what's going on. Some of those Native Americans have Bigfoot as their spiritual guide, which is kind of neat. So, animals seem to make it through catastrophes where humans don't do so well, so they use a bear or some type of an animal as their spiritual guide, and some of them have a Bigfoot as their spiritual guide. The natives, other Native Americans, like I speak at some of these casinos that are owned by Native Americans, and they believe them hands down. It's just a matter of, they don't talk to just everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they think about the recordings. Well, it doesn't matter what they think. They are what they are, and they think that whatever they are, they should be left alone, that they're just their brothers in the woods, and they live in two worlds.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult when it does come to Native heritage. In the Four Corners area, I'm surrounded by what people call Navajo, but they're actually Dene and Utes, and I've been trying to get people in here to talk about Native lore and skinwalkers and such, but nobody wants to step up to that because they do keep these certain things pretty quiet, and they believe that talking about skinwalkers and such creates negative energy, and they don't want that attached to them, so nobody really wants to talk about it. So it's really hard to get certain things out of them.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes along with what Monk was saying. Like, there's been different stories of horses and their hair being braided by Bigfoot, and he's wondering, did the horses that you used on your expeditions ever have their manes braided?
I've been asked that before, and I never looked for that. I got to tell you, we were after the encounters, and when I did see their hair twisted, I always considered that they'd got caught in a limb or something and just wiggled it around,
Mm-hmm.
But Don Monroe, he's written a book about that very thing, how they braid the hairs on their horse. Now, if it was braided like a woman's braid is, really nice, I would have probably picked that up. But otherwise, no, I would just put it off as I'm getting tangled up in a limb or something.
Yeah, and the ones that I've seen, like in pictures and such, they're not as intricate as, if we were to do it, it's kind of, like you said, it looks kind of tangled or whatnot, but there is some sort of braid there, so it's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of like to mess with the horses and play with their hair and stuff, so that's pretty
Well, I tell
cool.
you, we've been out walking in the daytime, left our horses tied up in camp, come back and there's Bigfoot tracks around them.
Yeah,
So,
they're kind of attracted to them. And,
they are. Yeah,
it's
it creates
pretty
interest.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Dell was asking, why would paranormal discharge batteries in a device, but not if they are outside the device? I think they just draw the energy, is what I've always gathered.
Well, I don't know. I mean, how do you know that? They do draw them while they're outside the device, I think. I mean, Scott Nelson had his drained. Mine was inside my little recorder, and it was drained. And it was a lithium battery, brand new one, in 2011. Now, Barry mentioned this in my first CDs, how cold it was up there. Even our cassette recorder stopped working. And that's true. But you got to wonder, was they doing something with the batteries? Or, these things would be out there when it was freezing cold and making their sounds.
I'm sorry. I had my phone on the table and it vibrated.
Oh. Cool.
You're like, what was that noise? That was my phone vibrating on the wood table. But yeah, it's pretty interesting how they are like drawn to the horses, and horses, they say how dogs are man's best friend, but I think horses are kind of in that same niche. And they do have that closeness to not only humans, but Bigfoot. And Bigfoot are drawn to them because they are social animals. Just like if we had elephants out there, I'm sure they'd be drawn to them as well.
I think they entangle them quantumly. It's called quantum entanglement. That's what mind speak is. You hear a lot of people say, well, Bigfoot was talking to me. Well, they weren't audibly talking to them. We're talking to them through their mind. And so you don't know if it's really the mind communication, which I call quantum entanglement, or if it's their own paradigm working on their brain. Your brain It's an amazing thing. You fill in the spots. Your brain will. It'll fill in all the vacancies if you got any. We all got vacancies in our brain, right?
Yeah.
I got a bunch of them right now. I'm about to fall asleep on you.
Aw.
Oh, no. Shouldn't have said that.
Somebody was saying just a minute ago, man, I thought Bigfoot was telepathic, but they use voice, but we're also telepathic, and, you know, I've been in people's minds and given them things or said things they're about to say, and they're like, hey, get out of my head, and I'm like, you know, sorry, you know, I'm just kind of open to that, and I'm not trying to invade your mind, but I'm trying to just, I've basically been someone that is of service to people, so I just try to help when I can, but I think they're like us. They're not just telepathic beings, but they do like to vocalize as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they're, exactly. Telepathic, I think they are the oneness that we're supposed to be, that we are. We just don't get it. We can communicate with each other. We sense each other a lot. All of us can do that. It's just some people are more tuned into the pineal gland and be able to couple with the third eye than others. And that's what we are all supposed to do, is learn how to do that. You do that through meditation and just being simple. And I get into the sleep stages in my book, Quantum Bigfoot. I think you got to be in the alpha state for these things to interact with you, because that lowers your vibrational frequency to a state where it's close to the earth and it's close to them, because I think they're one with the earth too. And that's how birds and, well, anyway, that's my theory anyway. The alpha state of sleep is when you're not asleep. That's where I was in 2011. I wasn't asleep at 10 o'clock, but I wasn't awake either. You know, you're kind of in that, not analyzing anything. You're just laying there relaxed, and that's when they can deal with you. That's when they like to deal with you, I think. But if you're out there in the beta state, which we're in right now, talking to each other, rarely does something happen. And a lot of times things happen during the nighttime, and that's because of that lower vibrational frequency that goes on. And I know there's a lot of people questioning the vibrational frequencies. You get a book and start reading that stuff. It's so interesting when you get into what really is going on with frequencies. Anyway,
so a lot of times in the field we hear about Bigfoot and wood knocking. Have you had experience with that in the field?
Yeah, oh yeah. In fact, it's on my second CD, the wood knocking. It's rhythmic too. And I know they knock on wood, but sometimes I wonder, and now I wonder about that sound I heard in 2011 right outside when I thought it was a big, huge wood knock. It was so loud, it's like a gun going off right outside my tent. Now I'm wondering if maybe there wasn't one of them materializing, because I think it makes that sound when they get into our dimension. It sounds like woo-woo stuff, don't it? But it's really, it's brought me to this stage. Maybe I'm blowing a funny farm or something, I don't know.
So do you think it's like sort of kind of marking their territory, or...
No, I think it's just coming in and out of our dimension. It's creating their energy into mass again, or maybe they're mass and energy, one or the other. I think it makes that sound. However, they do beat on with trees. I know that, because they were doing that night when I started interacting with them. And they do it back and forth, you know, in a way that is messaging, I think, messaging to the other one.
And I've also seen and heard, I've seen pictures and heard people talking about these different structures, trees being bent over, or kind of like a teepee sort of structure being put up. Do you think that's Bigfoot, or is that somebody just messing around in the woods?
It could be snow load. Weather does a lot to the forest. I'm not saying they don't leave these signs, but it could be a hunter, it could be one of them, but more than likely, most of that stuff I think is done by the weather. People are so hungry for something to happen Bigfoot-wise, they're looking so hard to try to make something into Bigfoot that they want to make that way. And I'm not saying that it isn't that way, but I'm just saying keep an open mind that it might be something else. I try to take all the classical means I can think of to think of what it isn't. It could have been this, it could have been that, it could have been this. If you run out of everything like that, then you got the other thing to think about. I know the natives years ago, they would leave signs to show someone else which way to go. These tree structures, I just don't know. I think a lot of it is due to just nature.
Yeah, and like you're saying with the natives, I've heard stories of how they would bend trees to kind of show the path to where the water is. So that's been interesting because I've seen trees bent the way they shouldn't be, and I don't see a log or anything that rested on it that would have made it that way. And I'm wondering, was that, from back in the day when a native had bent that over so another one could find its way to the water?
I was in Siberia. When I was in Siberia, we seen these trees bent, look like an arc, one from one way and one the other, like somebody got married under them or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they were woven together. Very interesting. They think the Yeti did that. I don't know, because they took us to it, but still, there's some interesting stuff out there like that, and some of it might be related to the Bigfoot, the Yeti or the Yeren or the Yowie, or who knows.
It's very interesting indeed. GJ in the chat room was asking, Ron, any thoughts on this new 5G frequencies they are going to be broadcasting, and us and them?
5G.
As far as like the phones, like we're only at 4G right now, and people are talking about 5G and all the crazy things that are going to be happening once they do go to 5G.
I don't have any thoughts on that, no. I know frequency has a lot to do with everything. How that might affect us, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. I would hope they would check all that out. Some of this stuff is long-term deficit to us. You don't know about how bad it was for you until 5-10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say what it'll do, but I would hope they would check all that out. Especially if they definitely relate these, like this thing I had happen to me with the cell phone. If they relate that, if that's a fact, if it's not just theorizing right now, but a lot of people are wondering about that. I know women, sometimes I see them, and then they end up with breast cancer a few years after that.
Yeah, I'm like, keep that out of there.
Yeah.
Or your back pocket even, or your front pocket, like, kind of try to keep it away from.
Keep
Yeah,
it
try
somewhere
to keep
else.
it away from your body parts.
I used to keep mine right next to my bed, so I could look see what time it was of the night or something, and I keep it clear across the room now and mute it. So I don't know. I just so many things are happening nowadays. And you don't know the results of it till years later.
So I know a lot of tribes, keep the Bigfoot or Sasquatch in a hierarchy as far as they really look up to or worship or whatnot. Some of them think of it as like the boogeyman, and others are like, leave it alone. Like, don't chase it, don't try to look for it, just leave it alone. Have you heard anything like that from any tribes you've dealt with?
Yeah, exactly. You leave it alone. And that's where the Johnsons were. They're kind of off at me for exploiting it like I do with telling people about what went on. They think, you just leave it alone. But I can't leave it alone. I think people need to know this stuff. And the more I'm into it, the more interesting it gets. Native Americans have a lot that they don't share, and they won't share with just anybody. So you get them to talk to you. And I think once you acknowledge and respect, show a respect for what these things are, they will open up to you more. If you're out there just trying to shoot one or get a picture of one, exploit them or something like that, chances are the natives aren't going to tell you what they do know, because they see them quite regularly up here. And in Canada, I've been up into there a few times, and there's a lot going on up in there. But you get the natives to talk about it's another story.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome the extent of respect that you have for it. You're not giving the exact location because you don't want people to go in there and harass, or, you know, some people want to shoot one so they have the evidence and all this money that comes along with it. And, you know, you're keeping this location secret, and because you don't want people to go in and exploit it. So there's a certain amount of respect that goes with that, and I do respect that.
Yeah. What I tell people is you don't find them, they find you. They will find you if you're the right kind of person and you got the right attitude. If you got out there with a gun and they can sense, they can read your aura. My horse could read my aura. I mean, animals read auras. They read the energy that surrounds you. And anyway, it's if you got the right energy and you're the right person, they will work with you. And I try to tell people, don't go out there try to make something happen. Just go out there where you think they might be and relax, get in your alpha state that I talked about a few minutes ago, and just don't try to analyze things. Just be there and be simple. And when they do start making their telltale signs, which is cracking limbs or beating on rocks or something like that, or whooping, just be still. If they don't think they got your attention, they'll come closer. And if that's what you want them to do, well, just be still. They will. That's what I did in 74 when these things were getting closer and closer to us in the camp. There, me and Bill, my friend, and the night I saw one, and you know, just keep doing what you're doing. We just kept doing what we was doing, because you know, if you shine a flashlight or jump up around, they're going to be gone. Don't shine a flashlight out there. And as much as you want to, as much as you want to see them, as much as you want to know what's going on, don't do that if you want them to come closer. You won't have interaction. Some people think they want interaction, but when you finally get it, they're going to run. A person want to do that. So anxious for interaction. You know, it took her up where we knew they were. We knew there was some up. This family has been having encounters quite regularly, and I told her now, and she, it's funny. She.
Well,
I said, if you want to get rid of them, if you don't want them to come around, just shine a flashlight. And first thing she does do is she goes out to search flashlight everywhere, because she was so scared.
Well, unfortunately for me, but good for you because you're ready to go to bed. We are at the end of our time, but can you tell our listeners how to find you and learn more about you and how to find your books?
Yeah, my website, Ron Morehead, 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 10, RonMorehead.com, or BigfootSounds.com. Either one gets to my website. And my books are there, and so are my CDs. And I got a lot of articles there, too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being my guest tonight, and it was so wonderful having you on the show this evening.
Well, thank you, Tess. It was a pleasure. Get you again sometime.
Yeah, you have a pleasant night's sleep, and I'd love to have you back again sometime.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else in the universe you are listening tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night on SpacedOutRadio.com. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we own the night. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening and morning, and I'll see you all back here again tomorrow night. And if you guys are up for staying up with me on my birthday weekend, you can come and join me on Skype at 970-335-9596. That's 970-335-9596. I hope you guys will come in and talk to me and have a couple nightcaps. If not, you guys take care of my ewes, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's
You know what's nice? You could drive to Whataburger right now if you wanted to. Yeah, you could hang a Louie, talk to Reggie at the counter, and get a freshly made 100% beef double meat Whataburger with melted cheese and fresh cut veggies on a 5-inch bun. It's just the delicious freedom you have living in the land where there's Whataburger. Of course, some people aren't in that land. I wonder what they're doing right now. Probably thinking about a road trip. Good thing it's so close you can taste it. Good thing there's Whataburger.
A voicemail from Sheila, a real Banner Health patient.
I was visiting Arizona from Colorado, and it was an unexpected ER visit for me. Being away from home, I felt very comfortable and confident that I was being cared for no matter where I was. I want to thank you, all the staff and the doctors and nurses, for my visit. Everything went really well, so thank you.
We're here to help you breathe easier. Banner Health. Exhale.